Do.
Everything was already quiet.
Good morning, and are we on? Yeah. And welcome to our April 27th Board of County Commissioners meeting. We're going to begin our meeting this morning with an invocation by Reverend Anil Singh, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please join us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for inviting me. Let's join together in heart, mind, and spirit. We thank you, our Creator, for breathing life into all of us gathered here today. Thank you for breathing life into our universe, our galaxy, our solar system, our beautiful planet, and our beloved Martin County. We thank you, O Creator, for joining us together as one people. And we thank you for the people who comprise our county commission and all the people who devote their lives to public service. Thank you for their dedication, their hard work, and their sacrifices on our behalf. May you bless everyone gathered here today with your wisdom, a thirst for justice, compassion and mercy and love for all of our neighbors. Creator, as we emerge from the isolation and uncertainty of this pandemic, as we seek to heal and reunite from the civil strife we suffered in this nation over the past year, and as we chart a course forward together to rebuild our lives, remind us, O Creator, that we are one people. We may come from different backgrounds, cultures, and faiths, but we live with a common vision of life, that all people are created equal, each of us endowed by you with the inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. May we all strive to uphold this grand and noble vision, not only for ourselves and our own families and our own communities, but for one another. Out of many, you have made us one. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, on this morning's agenda, we have one additional item, Departmental Quasi-Judicial Number 2, request plat approval for Banyan Bay PUD. We have no consent agenda pulls, and,
Approval of the agenda and the consent agenda?
okay, thank you. We have a motion for approval of the agenda and a second by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And we have two proclamations this morning. Proclamation number 1, May 2021 as the 20th anniversary of Place of Hope Month.
Good morning, Commissioners. May 2021 marks the 20th anniversary of Place of Hope, celebrating 2 decades of service to over 17,000 foster children, homeless youth, families in transition, and survivors of trafficking in our community. In recognition of this occasion, the Board urges residents to volunteer their time, talent, and energy on behalf of foster children and the families in our area. And here to accept, we have Lily Totten, who is the Treasure Coast Program Supervisor with Place of Hope.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today and really recognizing Place of Hope. I started at Place of Hope about 4 years ago, but obviously Place of Hope, as you said, was started 20 years ago as we're starting our 20-year anniversary next month. We've been really blessed over the past 20 years to really witness some incredible success stories in the community as we serve South Florida. As we talked about, we've served over 17,000 children and families, assisted 146 young adults transition into a healthy adulthood, aided 40 human trafficking survivors, kept nearly 600 siblings together in foster care, witnessed 268 adoptions, 51 of them being here in the Treasure Coast, and educated over 40,000 community members on human trafficking. 6 years ago, when we came here to the Treasure Coast and really specifically grew into Martin County first, everyone just welcomed us with open arms, and we really couldn't be more grateful for that. So we're really hoping to continue doing that and being a part of the support of the community and just witnessing more triumphs, healing, and restoration in the next years to come. So thank you again.
Okay, our next proclamation this morning will be a proclamation declaring Historic Preservation Month in Martin County.
Historic preservation plays an important role in our lives and is an effective tool for revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character. To that end, May 2021 is recognized as Historic Preservation Month in Martin County, and the board calls upon all residents to join people from all across the United States in recognizing this special observance. And here to accept, we have Nikki Norton, who is chair of the Historic Preservation Board.
Hi again. We're very proud. Unfortunately, due to COVID and everything happening, we don't have a full calendar, but we are still proud that we actually are having 2 plaque dedications for Banner Lake and for All Saints. So the calendar is coming out. Sorry for the delay on that to give you guys the dates. We also are honoring Rick and Donna Crary. We know how much they've done in this community for our historic, and so hope you guys can join us for all the different events. I do want to thank you for tasking your staff. We have used some of your assistants over time, and they've done great strides for us, more than we've ever accomplished in the past, so thank you for that.
I also see that we have a special guest here this morning in the gallery. We have with us Carolyn Tinman, the Clerk of Court and Comptroller. And Carolyn, would you like to come up and address us this morning?
Thank
Good
you
morning.
very much, Madam Chair, and thank you for allowing me this brief opportunity this morning to come and really thank a longtime employee of the Clerk and Comptroller's Office for her incredible service. Don't look at me, Mary Kay. But Mary Kay Vattel, as you know, you've come to know her very well. She's been such a great partner for the Board of County Commissioners over the years. She has been with the Clerk and Comptroller's Office for 30 years. She started in April of 1991. And then, as you can imagine, she found her really true calling when she took over the responsibilities to maintain the board's records and minutes, help the public with so many searches on archival records, and really being that forward-facing public records custodian as well for a lot of the records of the board. And we really, really appreciate her service here. I think we can all agree that she's been a wonderful addition to the team, and I know that we all wish her well in her next incredible adventure. I believe that involves spending time perhaps with a grandchild. Yes. So anyway, I just wanted to come and thank her personally for her service, and I also wanted to thank her manager who came here today, Christina Hunter, and Sherry Van Cure, my Chief Deputy of Operations, came to celebrate Mary Kay as well. So thank you for this opportunity.
I don't have to make a speech, do I?
Yes.
Carolyn?
We have a few lights on before you leave. Commissioner Hurd and Commissioner Campy and Commissioner Smith all have lights on. Commissioner Hurd.
I just want to say a special thanks. Mary Kay has been an absolute delight and asset. Hers is a very difficult job. These meetings are complex. She's responsible for writing down and understanding the motions that are made, and they're incomprehensible more often than not. And she keeps us straight, and she always does it with a sense of humor and an intelligence. She is going to be absolutely impossible to replace. I feel very, very sorry for her successor. Thank you very much.
Agree. Commissioner Campy.
Thank you very much. I was going to hold my comments till commissioner comments, but while your boss is here. Mary Kay has done a remarkable job, as Commissioner Hurd has just mentioned. There are so many intricacies and so many issues. Not only does she have to wrangle the 5 commissioners and try to decipher what we're trying to say, she also basically is the director of this show. If there's technical issues with the microphones, she is the liaison between Martin County Television. She has worked through, technical difficulties. She has never been flustered. She is even all the time, no matter how crazy the rest of us get. She has done a remarkable job. I count her as a friend. She's a a fellow Palm City resident, at least for the time being. And I had asked her this morning, she has probably been involved in over 800 county commission meetings, which I think, other than maybe Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Hurd, rivals anyone in the county. And it's another example of the remarkable people that make up the Martin County staff that have dedicated literally their professional lives to this county and to this job. And I wish you all the best. I know you're going off to spend time with your family and your beautiful granddaughter. I'm sad to see you go, but I'm happy for you. God bless you.
Commissioner Smith.
I would ditto all of that. I will miss, I think the part I will miss the most is my sitting in the corner and always getting chimed in my left ear about something. I think some of my favorite times were when we'd have these little sidebar conversations, and I'm not really good at remembering movie names or things like, but I can describe it. And she's like, I know exactly what that is, and she goes at it. And there was one time we looked up something that we probably shouldn't have looked up because I said it was something like this. She was, oh my God. And I was like, nope, get rid of that, take that off. But everything that Commissioner Hurd and Commissioner Campy have said, it was absolutely a pleasure to work with you all these years. I would disagree with Ed on one little point. When we got out of line, Mary Kay had absolutely no problem telling us so and like clamping right down on us and straightening us out. So it was always very much appreciated. You will be very much missed. And Ed's also right about, we are so lucky to have a clerk that we have the relationship we have with all of our constitutionals, because it's not like this in every county. And that follows all the way down through her entire staff, and that usually comes from great leadership. So thank you for all of that and what you do for us. And Mary Kay, best of wishes, and have fun with your grandbaby. Take care.
Okay. Commissioner Jenkins.
I want to echo all of my commissioner comments prior to and wish my high school classmate the best, and you will be sorely missed. And sitting in this corner, which is my second shot at this corner, and it's been real. And I do wish you all the best, and grandkids are great because you can hand them back.
That's why we just went right to the kid.
Yeah, there you go.
And I would also echo all those. I've worked with you the shortest amount of time, obviously, but I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I wish you the very best in your future endeavors, and enjoy those grandbabies. And thank you, Carolyn, for being here as well. Okay,
Well,
wonderful.
thank you all. And I didn't write a speech because I didn't know we were doing this morning. But and I also want to thank everybody at the clerk's office and the county. And you're all very good about praising staff for how good they are at their jobs. But I think a lot of times people don't point out how many truly wonderful people work for the county, both in the clerk's office and in the admin building. And 99% of the times everybody is cheerful and friendly and willing to help and go the extra mile for you. And I've made some really good friends here. So thank you all very much.
It's that 1% that's the kid.
It's that one, we all have one bad day.
Okay, we are going to move on this morning with public comment. I have a couple speaker forms during general public comment. Our first speaker this morning will be Amy Pritchett, followed by Louis Hoffpaver.
Morning,
Good
everyone.
morning.
Rocky Point is not a collector road community. With 1,400 people a day moving into Florida, it's already evident that traffic has increased in Martin County. Anyone who travels within the community is aware of the uptick. If the district can spend $1 million to preserve acres next to Maggie's Hammock, we can certainly invest about 1/10 of that to reduce speeds and ensure safer travels throughout the Rocky Point neighborhoods. I would also like to note that Governor DeSantis has not renewed the state of emergency that expired at 5 p.m. last evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pritchett. Our next speaker is Louis Hofpaver. And please correct me if I mispronounced your name, followed by Jay Clark.
I kind of like your pronunciation better. Off power. No, it is an honor to be here. I can't stay the whole time, so I've got to speak in this public comment. But I want to talk about the Pulte homes out west on Pratt Whitney. And I think about my parents moved here in '92, long time ago. And then a few years later, grandparents followed them, built a house in Foxwood. So I grew up in that area. I remember going to South Fork, like crawling through the woods and that back way, hopping the fence to get to school, learning how to drive in those little streets in Foxwood, Treasure Coast driving school, right on those roads. Like I love it. I grew up there. And through time, you know, we've changed, we've grown. I grew up, got married, brought my wife back to Martin County. And so I just want to ask that we move forward with this project, build more homes, provide more space for more people to make great memories. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we have Mr. Jay Clark, followed by Jeff Whitman.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Jay Clark. I'm the president of the Treasure Coast Athletic Association. I'm not sure if you're familiar of it, but we're oversee the girls Wildcats softball. Every year for the last 5-6 years, except for this last year, we've hosted a Babe Ruth World Series. And with that, brought in girls from all over the world, including from China at one year. With that being said, we've recently noticed that the gates on the ballparks have been unlocked. With that happening is we're noticing that there's holes being dug by animals. There's also dog feces on the ground as well. With that, with our children out there playing, and you know, we're from the ages of 8 to 18. For some reason, the gates are unlocked. We're unsure why. We were just told it was the powers above, and we would like to see if there's a way to keep it more secure. If there's a way to have open parks for animals to go through and play for other locations, or have one at the park for that reason. But when we show up, and I also have an email from a mother that showed up and saw a big shepherd running around, and I also have pictures of dog feces that coaches and other parents are sent me. I'm not only the president, I also have a daughter on the team that plays. And it's kind of hard to say when we have to show up to play team or the park early to policing the field for dog feces and see if there's anything else for the girls to run and play. With this, it's hurting our fields to where we're going to have the Babe Ruth coming this year. Hopefully, because back in 2019, we brought in approximately $7 million to the Treasure Coast. And we would like to keep doing it. Being a president, speaking with all the parents that have come from as far as Hawaii, Alaska, and others, they love our field. They praise highly of how Martin County's kept the fields up and how the Parks and Rec has kept everything up to par and how beautiful it is. The only complaint they have is there's too many traffic lights in traveling. But other than that, they have nothing but positive things to say, and we would like to keep that going as much as we could. So I'm just bringing this up to you because I'm not sure of who, where, when, but I'd like to address this situation because we like to have the parks more secure for that reason of our safety for our girls playing, running, and not tripping in holes, being built by animals or dug by animals, and we've had some points prior to the gates not being locked, and we've had the fields, some holes dug in the infield and whatnot. So I just bring it to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next and final public speaker forum for general comment is Jeff Whitman.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Whitman. Good to see all of you. I want to thank all the commissioners, especially Commissioner Jenkins, for saving the Ham property and turning it into the Hope Sound Scrub Preserve. It is absolutely stunning. It's spectacular. It's one of the most beautiful places in Martin County. And there was a plan to place 84 houses on that pristine land, and thank God that didn't happen. there were a lot of people that worked years and years to preserve that land. And I want to mention some of them. Some have passed away, unfortunately, but it was really a community effort, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people that worked to save that land, and it was ongoing for like 20 years. Janet Gettig was the first commissioner to champion the Ham property way back in 1999, 2000. Commissioner Hurd has been a champion since 2002. 20 years. Thank you, Sarah. We're very grateful for your help and assistance. Commissioner Leo Weberman. Commissioner Weberman worked 8 or 9 years trying to save that property, and I had my disagreements with him, but he really got the ball rolling. He authorized our trip to Tallahassee. God bless you, Lee. Dr. Gina Paduano, David Knight, Russ Blackburn, Miss Krista, thank you. Thank you. Sally Schwartz. Sally wrote numerous columns advocating the preservation of the property. One of the columns she wrote generated over 600 letters of support, which Chuck Barraclaw and I took to Tallahassee to get a grant for $2.1 million from Florida Communities Trust. Unfortunately, we had to give that back because there were easement restrictions on the property. But every time we got close to getting the money, it would slip away. Jupiter Island Mayor Joe Connolly, who later became the town manager, loved Joe, miss him tremendously. Gene Rout, Bernie Auer, Barbara Birdsey and the Treasure Coast Treasured Lands Foundation, Jenny Sherlock, she did some behind-the-scenes work, legal work for us. Mr. Ted Ham. I still have a lot of his letters that he wrote to me. I really miss Ted. God bless Teddy, man. I'm sorry he's not with us. And then there were like over 600 people that wrote letters of support, and I want to thank them. And then Senator Joe Negron, who got us the funding for the property too. So thank you, Senator Negron. And I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out, but and Mary Kay. Mary Kay was through with us the whole time. Thank you very much.
Sure was. Thank you. Okay, that looks like it completes public comment this morning. We're going to move on to commissioner comment. Commissioner Jenkins, do you want to start this morning?
So a few meetings back, we had a presentation by the Guardians regarding the Loxalucy Headwaters Initiative. I assumed in that we had given staff direction to write a letter of support. After Martha Ann, starts with an M, reviewed it, we didn't quite get there. So if we could actually...
Oh, we did that.
No, we didn't, apparently. So if we could, just as a formality, I guess, so Martha Ann could...
So would you like to make a motion then?
I'd like to make a motion that we write, or that we direct staff to pen a letter of support for the Loxalucy Initiative.
Oh. We're going to do a motion by Commissioner Jenkins, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? We're just going left to right today. Yes. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Great.
Thanks.
Secondly, I emailed our administrator, Ms. Taryn, last week about a concept for Indiantown with regard to preserving the Indiantown fire rescue with Martin County. Do you want me to, or do you want to explain? You'd do better.
Thank you for that. So we got with staff, with legal and Mr. Donaldson and Mr. Stokas to talk about, our concern is how you identify any monies that you would want to offer toward this endeavor. And we believe that if we are structure this in such a way that it's toward economic development, that we could then tap into some of the federal funding that we anticipate that we'll see, and we could make some offer to the village from a monetary standpoint. I know Commissioner Jenkins, you've been talking about roughly 300,000, and so, but again, we would have a separate agreement that would lay that out. And you were talking about wanting a 5-year plan, so we would have an interlocal with the village if they were amenable to it, and we would make it very clear that these monies are to be used toward some form of economic development. So whether it's an infrastructure, water and sewer, whatever the desire is of the village, we don't want to get that specific, but it would be specific to economic development. And that will help us, because others are going to come forward and say, hey, what about me? But again, if it's an economic development project, then we believe it has merit to it and would help the village. So that's kind of where we landed on it. I know some of you have had other conversations with some of their council members, and this keeps bouncing around, but that's where I think we were comfortable, and Ms. Woods was comfortable.
I think it is a community that is in dire need of improvements and has challenges. And I think this is something that the rest of the county can accept, rather than somehow we would, which I was never in favor of, we would create a discounted fire service MSTU out there when everybody else, and then the rest of the county's got to make it up.
Yes, sir.
That's not in any way acceptable to me or anybody else in the unincorporated Martin County. So this is a way that we can help Indiantown build some of the things that was part of the reason why they became incorporated. And it'll tie us to our fire rescue for 5 years. Anyway, so I think it's a good idea. I wish I would have come up with it. Somebody in the room came up with that, Mr. Stokas, and I think it's in my mind, it's doable. Yeah.
So how would you like for us to proceed?
Well, I'd like to make sure that the rest of my commissioners are behind it, and then direct staff to make it help. So,
Commissioner Smith?
And I know this is the first time I'm hearing of it, so not caught off guard, but just haven't processed it yet for 2 seconds. I think one thing that would be important to think about with this is that I know you said you didn't want to narrow it down too much, but I think you should narrow it down some.
Okay.
I think just opening up and having it wide open will lead to someone questioning later on, was the intent? I mean, I really thought the other day we gave clear direction to send a letter, and I guess we didn't do that. So the intent idea from what 5 of us thought we heard, and even the expressions over there, were that we were going to send a letter in support of the Guardians. That was a simple letter that 5 of us talked about. So 5 years from now, or 4 years from now, and we're turning over, is the idea to turn over funds and let them do as they wish with them? Or are we, that's where I would say I would have some sort of a, some parameters. And I
just for $300,000, they could throw that at their water plant just to provide fire flow for
They
economic
absolutely
development.
could, or they could throw it at something that we didn't think was the right thing to throw it at. That's, I guess, so if it's the water plant, if it's roads, if it's parks, and now when we're talking about economic development, I'm not sure how that fits that definition, but the water and sewer probably does.
Yes.
Maybe roads do, but I just, and do we literally, in your mind, do we literally just turn the money over every year? Or do they come to us with some kind of, this is what we're looking to put it towards this year thing?
Trying to make it least complicated.
I understand. I wish we'd had this conversation before, because I've asked most of this.
I don't particularly care
Not with
for
you.
surprises that aren't on the agenda either, but this is a little bit time sensitive that we need to put that out there so we can come to some kind of conclusion with Indiantown. But if you've got some language that you'd like to,
I would suggest this maybe, perhaps, and I'm sure they want to do what they want to do yesterday with the fire rescue thing. When's our next meeting?
May. Yeah.
I would very much like some time to talk to Taryn about it. And
May
come
11th.
back with something that you or everybody agrees for language that we say, here's what we're proposing exactly, and this is how it's defined.
I mean, we don't even know at this point whether or not it's acceptable to them. They have a meeting next week, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
They what?
They didn't have, no, I'm not sure.
Well, they had a meeting this past Thursday, so
Yeah, so it's
I think they're 2 weeks out.
Could we maybe get consensus whether, just
The
an
concept.
economic development, incentive would be something that we would be, we would present to them to see if they're interested, and with that, it would come back, with some fine tuning in the interlocal agreement on exactly how those parameters.
And this is tied to fire rescue, how exactly?
They wouldn't be tied together. They would be two independent agreements. So you'd have on one hand the interlocal agreement for economic development funds on a 5-year basis. But at the same time, there would also be an amendment to our fire rescue interlocal agreement where the Village of Indiantown would commit and agree to a 5-year fire rescue MSTU opt-in. So we would have an agreement.
Are we going to have a contract with them? I mean, how?
We have an interlocal.
Two different interlocals. They're related to each other, but legally, we would keep them separate from each other. They're not one agreement, it's two agreements.
So what do we have currently?
Currently, we have an ordinance and an interlocal agreement which allows the village to terminate at any time upon the appropriate notice. I think you have to give May 1st, you have to give a 1-year notice because of the requirements of the municipal service taxing unit.
And so what would be different in this new agreement?
They wouldn't have that ability to terminate for 5 years.
And what holds anybody to that? I mean, they're a municipality. I'm just where we are currently, and now we're throwing this out there as a something. I don't know what prevents them from coming back next year and saying, hey, thanks a lot, but we still want to do what we want to do.
Well, the agreement wouldn't allow it. We haven't gone far enough to see if the ordinance could prohibit it as well. Again, this came up, we didn't have board direction, so if it's the will of the board, I'm happy to do further research. But
For a whole host of I'd love to talk to you all about it. I'm not opposed to it. I'm cautiously curious.
Well, I think we need a consensus from the board to be able to tell Indiantown this is what's on the table. So at that point, we get some direction from them, whether it's practical or acceptable, and then we proceed with the details. Right now, it would be potentially a wasted effort to make staff go through all the due diligence of coming up with these agreements if they just blow us off and not interested, right? So if we could somehow, I don't know how to formulate I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
No one shouldn't. You're Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, every applicant for these federal dollars is required to come to us with the justification for their project, why they should receive a portion of these federal dollars. And it seems to me that in this instance, we're making an exception. We're saying, we'll just give you $300,000 and you can tell us what you're going to do with it. And that's not the way that these federal dollars are supposed to work. So I have a real reluctance to, it looks like a handout without justification to me. I'm sure that there are some projects in Indiantown that would qualify, but before I'm going to sign on to that, I need to know what they are.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Campy?
Thank you. Commissioner Jenkins, thank you for bringing this up. Several of us had gone out to Indiantown, individual, separate from each other. and met with residents out there in the coming weeks. I think this is such an important issue, especially for the folks that are personally affected, whether they are residents of Indiantown or our county residents who live near the incorporated boundary. So I'm happy that you brought it up this morning. I think it is a very time-sensitive issue. It is not only fractured a very solid community who historically does not have these type of problems, but it's also fractured, sadly, our relationship with a incorporated entity within Martin County, which I also don't believe we've really had a lot of those situations. I respect the members of the Indiantown Council, but I also want to reassure the Indiantown residents and our residents that we are working on this very quickly. I think based on what I've heard this morning, we can craft a motion to direct staff, because as Mrs. Wood said, May 1st is a deadline. And so if we don't meet again until the 11th and they have meetings, we need to give them some direction from us to our staff, through our staff, on what we're willing to do or not do. So I think that the concept of giving them some form of funding, which obviously between Ms. Krista and Mr. Stokes, Mr. Donaldson, the original ideas that were put out on the table very quickly seemed like they had merit, but as our professional staff had an opportunity to dig in a little bit, realized not only may that not be functionally appropriate, it might not be legally appropriate or doable. So this concept that you guys crafted together works for me. But I agree with Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Hurd that we cannot just say, here is X amount of dollars to use for economic development. I agree that economic development is important, especially in Indiantown. That was one of the cornerstones of the reason they wanted to be incorporated. However, it is a very general term. So I think since this all is coming from the fact that they were looking at specifically fire rescue services to create their own, I would make a proposal that the $300,000 be used each year for the term in some aspect that would enhance their ability to offer fire rescue services. We have talked about their water flow. I know that they've recently purchased their utility. I know that that is a tremendous undertaking that will be very expensive and has a tremendous amount of moving parts that they'll have to put a lot of money towards. If we suggested that money that we give go to the utility specifically for enhancement of water flow, I think that would just be a small portion of what they'll need to do that. So at least Commissioner Hurd and Commissioner Smith can understand that it's narrowed right into something very specific. Commissioner Hurd is right. No one is allowed to ask for funds from us, the state, or the federal government without giving very specific prerequisites on how the money will be used and then proving that the money was indeed used for that purpose. With all due respect to our colleagues in Indiantown, we are under the same responsibility from the state and the federal government. I don't think it's disrespectful in the least. And I know, having spoken to several of their council members, they are as anxious to put this issue behind them as we are, for the good of the residents. Because when you talk to senior citizens or business owners, and we didn't even discuss the three-letter company that's out there who has not necessarily weighed in on this publicly, but they will. And none of us can afford to disrupt that FPL apple cart. I think that it's important that we act. So Commissioner Jenkins, this was your idea. You hold a majority of the district out there. I hold the rest. If you would make a motion to that, I would gladly second it.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that the county administrator offer to the Village of Indiantown a annual grant of $300,000 that is to be directed towards enhancement of their fire rescue delivery, water, fire flow from their utility, which honestly, this is not, and so it's, and then would it be appropriate, also hold the thought for a minute, that if they did have some other project that was, that would qualify under these monies, that they would then come to us, right, for approval, but they could, at their discretion, specifically spend this money towards fire flow? Does that work?
We have a couple questions on the floor with Commissioner Smith.
Ed, thank you. I really sort of like the direction this is going in, and I think the other was a little, for me, too broad. What I like about this, and Ed's absolutely right, if you have a really antiquated utilities delivery system, if the intent of this is to secure our fire rescue delivery to Indiantown, which I think is what probably most residents would rather have, then us committing funds to enhancing the delivery of additional service that enhances our service from a safety aspect, I think makes an awful lot of sense.
Yes.
Harold, I think that $300,000 can get eaten up in a blink. I don't know that for 5 years there'll be a lot of money left over at the end of it all. I think of just one, as Ed was walking us through this idea. Thank you, Ed, and I'm giving you a prop for that. That was good.
Thank you very much.
If and when the fairgrounds is to happen, the cost of running utilities to that property will eat up probably all of that. But I think of the neighborhoods that don't have, adequate fire hydrants, don't have whatever would really enhance our fire rescue department going out and making sure that our residents were safer. I think is a really super good idea. So I can support that, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And hopefully Indiantown will think that that's something that's worthy of discussing.
Good, thank you.
And I'll second Harold's motion for that.
Okay. Commissioner Hurd.
This is one of the challenges of one-time grants, is that they're not reoccurring. So my understanding is that now the proposal is not to allow Indiantown to apply for a portion of these federal grant dollars, COVID-related dollars for infrastructure, which is appropriate, but rather to assure them a reoccurring $300,000 grant per year for 5 years, so $1.5 million. What's the source of the recurring funding? It's not 300 anymore. That was the proposal that Commissioner Jenkins came up with at first. Now it's $1.5 million. So tell me where that $1.5 million is going to come from, and tell me what Indiantown needs to do in order to qualify.
Well, we're anticipating, the documentation that we've seen, that the grant, excuse me, that's coming down is split into 2 years. And so we would allocate that $1.5 million from those 2 years, whether we probably peel off $750 each year and set it aside so that we've got those recurring funds.
So we're taking away funding before people have had an opportunity to apply. We're committing that funding before we've even gotten an application.
Well, we have to plan, Commissioner. I mean,
How much is the funding each year?
Your total, George Stokas, Assistant County Administrator, your total allocation from the federal government's approximately $31.5 million through ARP. Indiantown will also be getting, I want to say about $6 million. I don't quote me on that number. So they will. It's more of an entitlement grant. So what I would foresee here is by all means, I think what staff's looking for is direction to go ahead and begin the communication with Indiantown, and then we would probably, my interpretation would be, we would come back with a list of projects and the estimated amount, probably from engineering estimates, as to what, from what I'm hearing from the board, for fire protection that would be related to economic development, and we would be coming back with approximately at $300,000 a year for 5 years at $1.5 million. So you're not limiting or restricting people from applying, what you're doing is you're allocating or setting aside a specific amount of money to go towards a specific area in the county.
Which is already getting $6 million. And therefore, if you take another $1.5 million, then that's $1.5 million projects that are in unincorporated that won't be funded. There won't be enough funds. It seems to me that this is not judicious. It's creating an exception to our rules for qualifying for these grants before anybody makes application, and that doesn't sound like it doesn't meet the intent of the federal funding.
Well, we believe the economic.
We can't set aside pet projects just because,
Well, Commissioner, all I can, again, I mean, I value your opinion on this matter. What staff, I think, was trying to accomplish is we do know through the act that was passed through the federal government is that we do have to allocate that money to COVID-impacted communities, as well as the act does provide and direct right now that staff should be looking at the investment in infrastructure, which would be water and sewer. And by all means, I do not have the full deck here today sitting here. We have not received the guidance from the federal government. We will be coming back to you all with that. I think just the intent here was to try to come up with a solution. We tried to be judicious. The reason we kind of looked at economic development in Indiantown is they are one of the few places in the county that has pretty much a permit ready industrial area, as well as they have an industrial base. It wasn't looking at it necessarily. I mean, from my economic development lenses, it was looking at, okay, where could you make an investment and then see a return on the investment in probably the shortest amount of time with the least amount of capital environmental impact, and that's kind of how we got to this. I do apologize for not coming before you all. When we came up with the idea, it was very
last minute.
I hate to say that, but it was kind of last minute. It wasn't just off the cuff, but it is. But I do believe this is just the beginning, and we will have to come back to you all with probably a plan and a list of the projects, and very similar to what we do with our capital improvement program. And that's really how we got to where we were at.
Well, and Commissioner.
So we don't have a plan, and yet you're intending now to put it into an interlocal that we're obligated to for 5 years, and we don't even have a plan yet.
Commissioner Hurd, Commissioner Jenkins, and Commissioner Campy have been immersed, as well as Commissioner Hetherington, because her family lives out there. And they're hearing from the residents that they're asking the county to please do something that would help the situation. And so that's what the commissioners are trying to do. They're trying to accomplish that objective for those residents, particularly that are out there, or people passing through the area, quite frankly.
But we can't do that at the expense of all the other residents. We can't subsidize one group at the expense of all the rest.
Commissioner Campy, yes.
Thank you very much. A couple of points that were happening as I was listening to my colleagues and staff. First off, Mr. Stokes, I would not apologize or say tag this conversation as last-minute planning. It's real-time planning. These things are happening in real time. It's not like you had all this information and you sat on it. It's not like you understood that there was a critical situation happening and you did nothing. You and Ms. Krista and our team are working in real time, which is how most negotiations actually work. As you hear additional information, as certain suggestions vet out either good ideas or don't work, that's how it works. And let's be clear, the negotiations have already begun. What we are discussing right now is 100% being watched by the manager and the Village Council of Indiantown. We are at the negotiation table right this minute. So with that in mind, I would caution all of my colleagues to at least think and frame what we're discussing in a way that will be at least reasonable to our colleagues in Indiantown, so that we don't torpedo the negotiations by sending missives west and then emotions take over and we're not able to rationally negotiate. Secondly, I would say that if there were no federal funds coming, we are still in this very position that we're in today. When I originally heard the concept of us doing a $300,000 per year for X amount of years, I did not in my mind assume that the money was coming from the federal grant money that's flowing down. I'm happy if you're able to work that into it. We all have our opinions on how busy the printing machines in Washington, D.C. are. We all have our opinions on whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, but that ship has already sailed. So if $31 million is coming to Martin County, which Indian Town, just like Stewart, Jupiter Island, Sewell's Point, and Ocean Breeze, is also part of Martin County. So I try in my mind not to separate them out. We're not talking about St. Lucie County. We're talking about Indian Town. We would still be figuring out a way, or at least asking staff to figure out a way to find an acceptable amount of funding that would go to Indian Town so that they would take the concept of privatizing and volunteering their fire rescue and emergency services. That's what my thought is today. The good news about if we qualify to use some of the federal funding towards this endeavor, infrastructure is 100% on that list. The other advantage to infrastructure is it is completely tied into economic development, because just imagine for a moment if you were either an existing business looking to relocate to Indian Town or an entrepreneur trying to start a business in Indian Town, part of your due diligence would be, is my facility going to be protected by legitimate, adequate fire rescue services? Are my employees that could potentially get injured or sick on my work site, are they going to be appropriately protected by a legitimate fire rescue and emergency service organization? That's the answer is yes. So economic development will be completely, in my opinion, completely hamstrung by a volunteer fire force and a contracted emergency services. So with all due respect to Commissioner Hurd, this is not a giveaway. These are members of our community. We're in negotiation. No one in their right mind goes to a negotiating table thinking that they will win everything and that it will cost them nothing. $300,000 to me is a reasonable amount of money to offer to other residents of Martin County. If we're going to eventually have these same conversations with the city of Stewart, we're going to eventually have these same conversations with Sewell's Point. We have had these conversations with Jupiter Island. It's not new. It's not like the folks in Indian Town are asking for something that these other three communities that I've mentioned have already asked us for. This is part of negotiating where a nearly $500 million operation to ask our staff to put up $300,000 a year to take this terrible issue of privatizing Indian Town, and not just Indian Town. Remember, Western Martin County unincorporated residents will suffer the consequences of the decisions that we make today. If your motion still stands, I would second it, and after hearing some comment, call to question on how do we send our staff over to legitimately negotiate with another elected body. Thank you.
Okay, Mary Kay, do we have a second already on the motion?
Me. I'm the second.
Well, yes, actually,
I seconded it before you even made it.
before the motion was made. but
Correct.
Commissioner Smith seconded.
Okay, so,
Commissioner Campy has
I'm
seconded.
seconding it
Okay,
to
so
send a message to our constituents.
okay.
So Commissioner Hurd,
Mr. Jenkins.
alluding to the fact that we're not being fiscally responsible with our CARES money, and it's just, imagine us not being able to collect the MSTU in Indian Town, the 4.6 million, I believe it is. Imagine us having to now contemplate building a new fire station on Fox Brown Road. Imagine us now having the logistics issue of dealing with our residents that are on the other side of Indian Town all the way to the lake. It just would seem to me that the most fiscally responsible thing we can do is try to cut a deal. Because I would assume, I mean, I'm pretty good with math, but $300,000, $1.5 million, I think that would be a much larger impact than $1.5 million over 5 years. So I think this is something that we can put on the table, that they can accept, and we can put this to bed. I don't know if you've been watching the turmoil between residents in Indian Town right now. This needs to stop. We need to bring this to fruition here. So that's
Thank you,
That's my
Commissioner
motion
Jenkins.
stands.
So we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jenkins, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting. Okay, and then we're back to Commissioner comments. Was that?
I believe I'm done.
Okay, great. Commissioner Smith,
I cannot follow that this morning.
Yes.
I'm all set.
all set. Okay, Commissioner Campy.
I would have yielded my comments, but there's exciting news that I'd like to turn the demeanor of the meeting over to. I think each of us received an email this morning, I assume, from Stephanie Faulkner, who is the director and head coach for the Treasure Coast Rowing Club in Palm City. The Treasure Coast Junior Rowing Club this weekend, actually over the course of the last 2 weekends, in the Sculling and Sweep State Championships, high school championships in Sarasota, won 4 state championships and 1 silver medal and 3 bronze medals. It is remarkable for a very small team. They've been at this for 10 years. They started with just a handful of students, and now they're up to over 80. They have a small team of Martin County, South Fork, Jensen Beach, and homeschooled and virtual school students, which is also remarkable, so that they all get together and collaborate. They don't have that rivalry of different high schools. It's a hybrid team, basically run by 1 paid employee and mostly volunteers. They also have a master's team, so it's not just junior. The Treasure Coast Rowing Club also has adults. It's a club. They get a majority of their funding through fundraising and from fees. They fundraise to also pay scholarships to children and families that cannot afford this as a sport. It brings in tremendous accolades for the community. It's sort of a little secret. I know Commissioner Smith for quite a long time has been a big supporter of the Treasure Coast Rowing Club. And if you are interested in volunteering or donating to the club, they're located in Charlie Layton Park in Palm City. To win 4 state championships from a small team that's competing against every other community in Florida, you can imagine in Tampa and Orlando and Miami and Fort Lauderdale and Jacksonville, they have gigantic teams with hundreds of members. And our teams did remarkably well. So I wanted to offer them congratulations for an unbelievable feat, and then also offer at least my congratulations to Stephanie Faulkner for the birth of her twins. So while she is home with, stole it from you?
Yeah, no.
While she was home with 2-week-old twins, and I have twins, so I know what that's like in the beginning, she was also coaching and encouraging and motivating her team and her volunteers and her coaches from afar, and it's just a remarkable accomplishment, and I congratulate them.
You want to add into
Yeah,
that?
I'm just glad we went the singles route versus the twins route. That seemed like a whole lot smarter strategy. I would be remiss also, and every time the rowing club comes up, Milton Harry was really the visionary that started the club years and years and years and years ago. Interestingly enough, one of our projects in downtown Jensen, Milton's son Seth was probably one of the first illustrators to help us put kind of image to paper on what downtown Jensen could look like, in the next 20, 30, 40 years or whatever. And so Seth worked with us for a couple of years, and what's interesting is there's a potential buyer for one of the parcels down there that has been working with Seth for years, and Seth might be coming back to do some work in Martin County. So just thanks for mentioning all that, and just never to forget that his father Milton really was the inspiration and the driving force behind what we have today. So thank you all.
And the U.S. Sailing Center in Jensen, speaking of that, this weekend held a regatta with teams high school teams from all over the state, and Martin County High School and other local students did remarkably well. If you are not familiar with the Treasure Coast Rowing Club or the U.S. Sailing Center, these are sort of not secret, but they're not very well-known gems. If you are a grown-up or a child or have children, these are unbelievable opportunities that are available right here in our community. First-rate organizations. They have Junior Olympics up in Jensen. They have all sorts of high school championships that other communities would die to have. The economic development, if you're not interested in any of the youth or the athletic portion of what I'm talking about, the heads and beds benefit for tourism and development in our community can be calculated in the multi-millions of dollars.
Yeah, if you haven't been to the, and again, thanks for all the, we're never going to get out of this morning, but, you know, I happened to go over to the Sailing Center. I was invited over to see their addition, if y'all haven't been over there, to see what they have done recently. It's world-class stuff. I mean, these guys they lead nationally and internationally in teaching sailing and rowing, you know, respectively to the rowing club. And I said that to their leadership. I said, you know, the crazy thing is half the people in Martin County have no idea of what goes on in these two facilities. And we have people from all over the world coming here, both to train, compete, and they love it when they come. It's like really amazing stuff. So thank you, Commissioner.
Well, congratulations to them. And I saw that they had a truckload of hardware and trophies pictured on social media. So it's a fantastic program. Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see Jeff Whitman here this morning. No one in Martin County worked harder or more persistently to acquire what I will forever know as the ham parcel than Jeff did. He worked. He's been a frequent guest of ours, a public speaker, and never missed an opportunity over the last 2 decades to exhort us to acquire this wonderful parcel of land in Hobe Sound. And Jeff didn't just come here. He went to Tallahassee. He went all over trying to devise strategies to come up with the funding. So we wouldn't own that parcel without his participation. So thank you, Jeff.
I agree.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Krista. Ms. Woods? Okay. Well, that completes our comments this morning, and we're going to move on to public hearing number 1. Public hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance amending Article 3 Land Development Regulations regarding centerline setbacks, presented by Pete Walden. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Pete Walden with the Martin County Growth Management. This is a public hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance amending Article 3, Land Development Regulations, Martin County Code, regarding centerline setbacks to provide for an exemption for centerline setbacks for both public and private right-of-way platted prior to April 29th, 1986. Martin County LDRs have zoning setback requirements for all Category A and B zoning districts listed in Article 3, Division 2, Table 3.12.2. In addition to these requirements, centerline setback requirements are listed in Section 3.16C. Section 3.16C requires structures to be set back 50 feet from the right-of-way centerlines of residential roads and 65 feet from right-of-way center lines on collector or arterial roads. Centerline setbacks are sometimes more constraining than the zoning setbacks in Table 3.12. Historical development did not always allocate for the centerline requirements, and today prospective home builders are having to acquire variances to allow structures to be built or reconstructed to meet development patterns that have previously been established. In addition to the added constraints in infill development, Section 316 centerline setbacks is not listed in Article 9 as part of the purview of the Board of Zoning Adjustment. So if the zoning district did not refer to the Section 3.16 in Table 312, no variance for the centerline setback could be available. So in order to fix the issue, we would have to either grant BOZA the ability to grant variances to Section 316, or make the proposed change to further exempt the section. The ordinance as shown with the strike-through And underline will simply add public right-of-ways to the already exempt private right-of-ways platted prior to April 29th, 1986. The exemption will not affect Category A zoning districts, as they are all dealing with development after 1986, or Category C districts, which have their own setback criteria, or CRAs, which are already exempt from the code. And with that, that's my presentation regarding it. Staff would recommend that the board approve the ordinance as presented, and that concludes my presentation.
Commissioner Smith.
I'm sure, thank you. So here's what I really like about this, and I shared this with staff the other day. If you brought us 50 of these things a year to fix, to help people, that they're pieces of our codes that I suppose at one point in time when this stuff was getting done, people thought that a lot of this stuff was good and it made sense. But the practical application to someone wanting to build a home makes them come to us, and we think in terms of it's no big deal. You come to the county and you get it fixed, but that's not how people process. People process coming here as a huge hurdle, and they have no idea what to do with us sometimes relative to this kind of stuff. So I think this is great, and I really appreciate staff kind of ferreting this thing out. And like I said, if there are lots of these other little things woven through our codes that staff wants to bring forward, by all means, please do, and let's make people's lives and our taxpayers' life simpler. Thank you.
Is that a motion?
Yes, ma'am. I move approval.
Okay. Very good. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Oh, sorry, we do actually have public comment, and we do have a form for public comment. Okay, so let me call for, thank you, Ms. Story. I got carried away. Is there anybody in the gallery that would like to make public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion on the floor by, now I forgot, Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to public hearing number 2. Public hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance amending Chapter 67, Article 13, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Ordinance, presented by Diane Hughes and John Mayo.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Mayo,
Morning.
Ecosystem Division. And here with me is Diane Hughes, who's going to give the presentation, and then we'll answer any questions you have. I'll get to it. There we go.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
John and I have met with all of you to discuss this national pollutant discharge elimination system.
Can you get either Diane just a little closer to the microphone?
Okay. I'm sorry. You can go to the next slide. So this program is called the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES as it's always referred to. As you can see, it was created by, in 1972 by the Clean Water Act. The stormwater is one of the program areas that this program has. It has other program areas. And in fact, it has, we hold a NPDES permit for our stormwater system. Other permits by that program are wastewater treatment plant NPDES permits. So our 2 wastewater treatment plants have those permits, but this ordinance is only stormwater, so those are not impacted by this ordinance. I just wanted to make that clear. Basically, this ordinance that we're working on is intended to keep our stormwater system protected from any intentional or accidental illicit discharge of any type of pollution, from oil to paint to, sewage, anything like that. That's the purpose of this ordinance. So the background is how we got here to open up this ordinance, because it was originally set in 2006, is that we had an audit by DEP in 2019, at the end of 2019. And they wanted to look at our NPDS ordinance. And at that time, when they reviewed it, they felt that it was missing some language with respect to construction sites specifically, with certain waste streams. Oh, that's on the next slide. I haven't got there yet. Sorry. So post-audit, our consultant, Wood Incorporated, suggested some changes at the end of that audit. So they've been on audit for some time. So the DEP required amendments was specifically to construction site waste control. And they wanted to you can see these waste streams that are listed here. They specifically wanted to list those in our ordinance so that at the end, if you can see the picture below, at the end of a construction project, they didn't want any porta potties left behind or any other of these waste streams that are listed here. They wanted to make sure that the contractor got all of those off the site after construction. And you can see there, our current ordinance doesn't have that specific language. Since we were opening up and that was one of the suggestions from Wood Incorporate too, was to add enforcement. So Public Works, we discussed that internally, and we all agreed, well, that might be good to do during this time since DEP is asking us to open it up. So we've amended it with specific enforcement options that we can go through, issuing a notice of violation and using our code magistrate to, get whatever penalties or fines that we need to. There's some other options as well that we can discuss if you have questions. And our recommendation is that the board approve the ordinance as presented.
Okay. Does anybody have questions? I have no public speaker forms, but does anybody in the gallery wish to comment on this item? Okay, comes back to the board.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Jenkins for approval, our staff's recommendation, and seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you for your work.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to, it's 10:19 at the moment, we're going to take our closed captioning break right now, and we will return at 10:30. Thank you.
Okay, you're on.
Okay. All right. Good morning and welcome back to our Board of County Commission meeting. We are going to move ahead this morning with public hearing quasi judicial number 1. Pulte Group requests approval of rezoning to planned unit development through a PUD zoning agreement, including a master site plan and phasing plan for the High Point project, presented by Pete Walden. And this is a quasi judicial procedure, so we're going to take ex parte. Commissioner Jenkins.
I have some, and they've been filed.
Commissioner Smith.
I do, and they're filed.
Commissioner Campy.
I have some and they've been filed.
Commissioner Hurd.
I have some and they've been filed.
If any, same here, they've been filed. And does the applicant have the return receipts?
They were turned in at the LPA.
Okay, any interveners? And Mary Kay, would you like to swear in witnesses?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Walden. Yes.
Walden with the
Well,
Martin
Pete.
County Growth Management. And I'd like to start by entering the full agenda item along with a copy of my work history and 2 evidence.
You want to ask the lady out back what she stood up? I don't know if she.
She was deciding if she should get sworn in.
Okay, never mind.
Okay, this is an application by Pulte Group requesting approval for a zoning district change from the current RE2A Rural Estate District to the Planned Unit Development or PUD District through a PUD zoning agreement and master plan. The project is located adjacent to and west of the Florida Turnpike. It fronts southwest Pratt Whitney Road and southeast Bulldog Way. The site is approximately 1 mile east of Southwest Canner Highway and is also adjacent to South Fork High School. The future land use on the parcel is estate density, which allows up to 1 residential unit per acre. This application is for a PUD zoning agreement. PUD agreements allow flexibility in design with respect to the land development regulations, but must adhere to all comprehensive plan goals and policies. The agreement is between the board and the applicant and can provide benefits to the applicant and the public. The master site plan is designed for 284 detached single-family homes. The total site is 321 acres. The existing Christ Fellowship Church will continue to occupy 28 acres, resulting in a proposed density of just under 1 unit per acre, with density transition measures accounted for. The project will provide 73% open space and has over 27% of the area established in a preserve area management plan. The master site plan depicts the main entrance off of Pratt Whitney Road, with a secondary entrance on southwest Bulldog Way, the existing church site, the Operation 300 site to be donated, along with the infrastructure and preserves that make up the development. The project is proposed to be developed in 2 phases. The first phase includes the main entrance, 94 lots, and the associated infrastructure. The preserve areas will be in effect at time of master site plan approval due to the existing PAMP that is being augmented with this agreement. And phase 2 will include the remaining 190 lots and infrastructure. These are the right-of-way sections for the development. The applicant and staff work together to create a sustainable street tree program that should provide for a viable tree canopy throughout the development on both sides of the right-of-ways. As stated, the PUD agreement provides flexibility to the applicant, and they have requested smaller lot sizes, wetland density transfer for the 15-plus acres of wetlands on the site. The applicant has produced setback criteria custom to the project and requests additional signage. In return, the applicant will donate approximately 20 acres to Operation 300. The plan provides for additional preserve areas that contribute to the 73% open space. The applicant will provide a $25,000 donation for public works and will develop and maintain a sustainable tree canopy along the roadways. The PUD zoning agreement master site plan are in compliance with all applicable codes as detailed in the staff report, and staff recommends approval. But would also like the ability to augment the PUD agreement to change Exhibit F, Section C2, regarding temporary signage. Originally in the agenda item, there were 5 identification signs requested for along the right-of-way. That'll be changed to 2. One will go to where the monument sign will be and will be replaced by the monument sign when built, and the other one will be placed out along the right-of-way. And also would like to change the language for the $25,000 donation to be used for the sole discretion of the Public Works Department Director rather than just to the county. And that concludes my presentation. And staff would move that the board receive and file the agenda item and all of its attachments, including the staff report as Exhibit 1, and move that the board approve the request for the zoning district change from the RE2A Royal Estate District to the Planned Unit Development District through the High Point PUD zoning agreement, including the master site plan, phasing plan, and preserve area management plan. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Commissioner Smith, you have your light on?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Peter, thank you for all that. At the last hearing we had on this, I had brought up the idea of having the availability of water and sewer, or not water and sewer, but fire service stubbed out to the perimeter. Is there any, from what I understand, maybe there already is?
Yes, sir. I looked into that, and this is the utilities map, and it shows a hydrant at the corner of Bulldog and Pratt Whitney with the main line already stubbed out to that area.
So if we were approached by Foxwood to somehow figure out how to put fire lines in or water lines in for hydrants, we could do that.
The utilities would be available, but the comprehensive plan might need to be augmented.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and we'd have to deal with that. But considering the conversation we had with the resident that came forward last time, I think that is something that we might want to look at, or at least have that conversation with them about. But I'm glad to see that the service is there, and that if they wanted to avail themselves, we certainly could do that.
Sure.
It's great. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, looking on this, go back to that aerial that you were just showing. So the development to the south is Foxwood, and which is 1 unit per 2 acres, except that the lots that are adjacent to this looks like they're about 5 acres or 6 acres, that sort of thing. Some of them are they're platted, so they're parcels. So on the site plan, the proposal by I've already forgotten High Point, but High Point is to put 13 houses along this southern border. Which how do you do density transitioning when you're dealing with 5-acre lots?
Right, there's 2 reasons why density transition doesn't apply. First of all, Bulldog Way is larger than a 30-foot right-of-way, which would exempt the tiering policy. Also, the lots are greater than 2 acres, which would also exempt the policy. So there's really 2 reasons why that wouldn't apply.
Okay, so I'm looking at the special conditions, and the minimum building front setback is 20 feet, minimum building rear setback is 10 feet, minimum building side setback is 5 feet, minimum lot depth is 120 feet, and minimum lot width is 40 feet, and that's going to be next to parcels that are 5 acres? And we still consider that compatible?
Yes, according to our code, it is, yes.
I also see that for landscaping, that construction of a single-family residence shall require the planting of one street tree. That's it? That's what we're going to get?
Yes, that's correct. We're making additional easement and right-of-way changes to make sure that we can keep a viable street tree canopy. That's something that on smaller lot subdivisions has been very problematic throughout Martin County, where after 20 or 30 years, the street trees outgrow the area that they've been allocated for them. So rather than designating that the smaller lots have a certain amount of trees, which may or may not be viable over a long period of time, we chose to create a good street tree canopy, which will do the most be the best benefit overall.
And we think that this intense urban development is compatible with the adjacent uses of agriculture and rural.
Yes.
Okay. Would you please go to page 261? So this is a proposal for permanent signs, correct?
No, and that is part of the PUD agreement change that I had alluded to. Instead of 5 of these signs, there are only going to be 2. And one of them is going to be replaced by the monument sign when it is built, so they'll only have 1 project identification sign out along the road.
Let's see, let's look at that. If we can find it. Yeah, that would be on page 264.
Yes, this is the monument sign proposed.
Okay, I just want for people who are watching to see the context and to understand where this property is located and to consider the appropriateness of this kind of signage in this location. Those are the questions that I have right now.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions for staff, does the applicant have a presentation?
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. For the record, my name is Dan Saro with the land planning firm of Kotler and Hearing. Pleased to be here. Our entire team has enjoyed working with your staff, Mr. Walden. Thank you for the presentation this morning. We will be available to answer any questions the Commission may have after the presentation. The request before you this morning is to approve the PUD zoning and the PUD master plan. It is important. I'd like to note that the local planning agency and the recommendation of approval from the growth management staff has already occurred. Most of you are familiar with the site, but our site is located next to South Fork High School. 75% of our trips are going to use Cantor Highway to come to our site. So it is located right between the Florida Club and Foxwood Community. See that on your screen. Christ Fellowship received site plan approval in 2012. They currently operate on a 28-acre development footprint. Their church is just under 50,000 square feet. The Pulte Homes has numerous projects in Martin County. The most recent is the Copperleaf community. Christ Fellowship is going to retain those 28 acres and sell the remaining portion to Pulte Homes. Pulte Homes is going to donate 20 acres of land to Operation 300. We've had various meetings with the surrounding community and the residents throughout the course of this project. We've had in-person meetings, virtual meetings, really reached out to the Guardians, the different coalition groups in Hope Sound to meet with them, to share these projects with them. The 2021 future land use map of Martin County is shown on the screen. You've got Florida Club, which has a higher density of 2 units per acre, and then Foxwood with a density of 1 unit per 2 acre, and our density is already approved at 1 unit per 1 acre. It is a transitional density between the 2 communities. When you look at design from a planning perspective, there's really two types of design that is appropriate for a project like this. You can have a grid type development, which you see kind of in the brown areas, and then a PUD type development, which you see in the green areas. Both of these two exhibits, basic as they are, show the same number of lots. But what you can see on the green exhibit is that with the PUD zoning, which is similar to what we're asking for today, allows you to preserve additional upland areas, environmental sensitive areas, and not have the entire grid network like you would see in a more gridded development. The master plan for the Pulte High Point project is shown on the screen. It is showing our entrance right off of Pratt and Whitney. That is the main entrance into the community. With the PUD zoning, we're allowed to have these additional preserve areas. I've got a slide in a second which shows the added acreage to the project. Part of the proposed master plan does show a drop-off location to South Fork High School. This is so that parents within the community don't have to get on to Pratt and Whitney or Bulldog Way. There's an internal drop-off at the southeast access over by the South Fork High School. And then we're also important to the school district was to provide an emergency medical services access through our property through the site should for some reason Bulldog Way be not accessible. But the cluster development with the PUD zoning does allow for a consolidated footprint. It allows you to preserve additional recreation spaces, allows you to minimize your impacts to the development, and allows you to preserve additional areas. The enhanced littoral and upland preserve area is going to effectively treat some of the runoff from stormwater and provide other environmental benefits, and allows you to do a better job at preserving and treating different pollutants. Similar with any Pulte community is a clubhouse amenity center for the residents, and then the Operation 300 parcel is shown on the northwest axis. Unique to this community is there is a small RV and boat storage facility located in the northwest. So you don't find that in many communities these days, but it is an extra storage space for the residents. When you look at some of the public benefits, really the environmental section is what I wanted to highlight. And if I could just show you going from top to bottom, the original 28-acre site plan approval for the church provided 66.18 acres when only 53 were required. So the church was already well over 13 acres over of what the requirement was. With this PUD, we're providing an extra 22 acres of preservation above and beyond what your code requires. That's 88 total acres that are forever going to be set aside into preservation, untouched, under a PAMP. And that's why we think the PUD zoning is appropriate for this particular project. And then the littoral zone section, 189,940 square feet are required by your land development regulations. We're providing 425,019 square feet. That's 235,159 square feet. It's almost 5.4 acres just in littoral areas that we're devoting to the project. So a lot of real estate. And then if you look at the upland transition zone, 189,940 square feet are required by code. We're providing 379,446 square feet. And the reason that the additional area for the upland transition is a little bit lower is because there's already a lot of existing vegetation on site that we can take advantage of. We don't have to plant new stuff. We can keep what's already there to meet that requirement. And also, if you look on the left-hand side of the screen along Bulldog Way, only a 40-foot buffer is required by your code. We're providing an 80-foot buffer. So pretty substantial increased buffer. And as Mr. Walden mentioned, there's also a monetary contribution to the Public Works Director to use at their discretion for the $25,000. Our entry design, located on Pratt & Whitney, does show this transitional architecture with the weathered steel look, masonry look, some of the landscaping to help soften the feel of it. It will have some lighting at night so everyone knows where their community is to help highlight that. So very common in today's marketplace. Also, the entry feature for the guardhouse area is shown here. Also, that weathered steel, kind of industrial, real quality product with the masonry that'll be proposed as well. And in conclusion, we are located within the urban service boundary, has already existing water and sewer to the church site. We are an approved density of 1 unit per 1 acre. This is smart growth. It allows for cluster development with additional environmental benefits. And we would like to just note that Growth Management Department and the local planning agency previously recommended approval. We'd ask for your approval this morning. On behalf of our entire team and the developer, be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Great. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Do we have any anybody from the public who wishes to comment? No public comment? Okay, I have no public comment forms, then it comes back to the board. Commissioner Camping.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for staff. Based on traffic counts and things along Pratt Whitney, as the project progresses, there'll be the staff through either engineering or growth management is always looking at traffic counts and how the traffic car count will elevate during, construction of projects like this. You feel comfortable with how those numbers have been presented and what the calculations look like? There's been some email concern that somehow the numbers will drastically change. I reviewed the information that was presented, but knowing how these projects work, I felt that our staff doesn't just approve projects without taking all of these things into consideration. The other point, just to mention, is more of a school district thing. I know that when we had our most recent joint school board, City of Stewart, Indiantown County meeting, that one of the things that was most surprising is the dramatic decrease in the student count, especially at the high schools and some of the elementary and middle schools as well. So when these projects are given approval by staff, the school district is also in coordination and consultation with us, correct?
I believe so. I don't have my traffic reviewer present at this time, but yes, that.
Yeah, I'm speaking more generally than specifically.
Mr. Schilling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Paul Schilling, Growth Management Director. We currently have Phase 1 final site plan application. As you know, today is the master plan and PUD zoning agreement and phasing plan. So as part of that final site plan that we're reviewing, Phase 1 right now is the more detailed traffic impact analysis that you allude to. And then a further Phase 2 will provide for the same study and analysis with our Public Works folks.
Thank you. So in other words, if a red flag were found along through the timing of the phases, our county staff is ready and understands the fact that whatever measures or
yes, sir,
solutions need to be taken into effect will be.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Does anybody else have any questions? So I'm looking for some board direction. Yes, Commissioner Smith.
I would move staff's recommendation.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Campy. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure there's something that we need to add for language.
Krista Story with the County Attorney's Office, including the revisions to the PUD agreement that Mr. Walden mentioned regarding reduction to 2 signs, the change in the language about the allocation of the funding, and we'll be revising that language accordingly, and the applicant has agreed to that. So if you'd include that, we'd appreciate that.
I will, and that's perfectly fine.
Seconder agrees.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Hurd, you have your light on.
Yes. We always strive for compatibility in our developments, and we take a great deal of pride in preserving compatibility in existing neighborhoods and understanding the nature of the surrounding development. And this property is nestled in a very rural area. It's bordered on one side by a high school, on one side by a rural development, Foxwood, on one side by agriculture, one side by our utility. And so it's very rural in nature. And these big, bright signs are extremely urban in nature. In addition to having lots that are proposed to be a third of an acre, a mere 120 feet by 40 feet, this development also really is bringing an awful lot of attention to itself through these colorful big signs, and it's contrary to, I think, what one of the things that we hold dearest in Martin County, and that's protecting our existing neighborhoods and providing compatibility with existing developments. So this approach, the size of lots and the calling and the signage, maybe would be appropriate in the very heart of the primary urban service boundary. This is wholly inside the secondary urban service boundary, which is supposed to be a transition between urban development and agricultural development. So I'm not going to be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we are going to move to public hearing quasi-judicial number 2, request abandonment of portions of unopened rights-of-way conditioned upon the conveyance of comparable right-of-way lying within Gomez Grant. Presented by Mr. Thomas Walker.
Commissioner, it's quasi-judicial.
Oh, okay, yes. We'll take ex parte by commissioners. Commissioner Jenkins.
I do have some, and they've been filed.
Commissioner Smith.
I don't believe I do, but if I do, they will be filed and are filed.
Commissioner Campy.
I don't have any.
Commissioner Hurd.
If I have any, they've been filed.
Same here. If any, they've been filed. And do we have return receipts?
No return receipts, but I would like to submit a copy of the agenda item along with my work history and the affidavit of publication for the record.
Thank you. And are there any interveners? Okay. Mary Kay, would you like to swear in the witnesses?
Okay, if you could stand and raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Mary Kay, we're going to make your last day a busy day. Okay, now staff's presentation.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Tom Walker, County Surveyor for the record. Today we have a request for the board to consider an application for the abandonment of 2 portions of right-of-way, both lying within Gomez Grant, and a waiver of the required privilege fee in conjunction with that abandonment. Currently shown on the screen in blue and labeled Exhibits A and B are those 2 proposed abandonments. The request includes conveying right-of-way in consideration for that privilege fee, and currently that is shown in red and labeled as Exhibit C. As the rights-of-way proposed for abandonment provide direct access to navigable waterways in Martin County, this abandonment must meet the criteria set forth in Section 155 of the Martin County Code of Ordinance, and specifically Loblolly Community Service Corporation, who are the petitioners, are requesting that the board allow the abandonment without the approval of a majority of electors participating in a referendum election, and that was established in 1974 under Section 155.3A. This does have a lot of history, going all the way back to 1910 when Gomez Grant was platted, and that plat included 2 rights-of-way that are currently shown outlined in blue. And then in October 31st of 1978, the Martin County Board of County Commissioners abandoned the right-of-way of 9th Street from First Avenue, which is now known as Southeast Gomez Avenue, to the Intercoastal Waterway lying between lots 32 and 33 of Gomez Grant. One of the conditions of that abandonment was that the petitioner dedicate to Martin County a parcel of land for use as public road as required in section 155.3A. That land was described in resolution number 78-10.14, and that was recorded in official record books 472, page 2417, and the subsequent warranty deed was also recorded in July 10th, 1979 in official record books 476, page 2694. So on the currently shown on the screen, the right-of-way in blue, which was the platted right-of-way, was abandoned, and it was replaced with the right-of-way that is shown in red. And then subsequently to that, Loblolly Bay was platted in 1980. So the outline in green is the plat, and then you see the right-of-way in red that replaced the platted right-of-way that was abandoned. Then fast forwarding to 1986, there was another right-of-way abandonment that took place on September 15th, 1986. And the land that was abandoned was described in OR Book 476, page 2694. So one of the conditions of that abandonment was that the petitioner dedicate parcel land comparable for a roadway or street, and that it led to the same body of water, and that is as set forth in section 155.3A. And that was recorded in warranty deed, recorded in OR Book 692, page 2327. So the portion in blue was then abandoned and was replaced with a portion in red, which created a continuous strip of land going from Gomez Avenue to the Intercoastal Waterway. And then subsequent to that, plat number 2 of Loblolly Bay was platted. So it resulted in the 2 plats outlined in green, and then the right-of-way that's shown in red going from Gomez Avenue to the Intercoastal Waterway. So fast forward to today, and they are proposing that the right-of-way be abandoned. That is described in Exhibit B. That consists of those remaining portions of the OR Book 476, page 2694, and that portion that was described in OR Book 692, page 2327. And that's all that section that's shown in blue on the screen currently. So the petitioner is the owner of said lots 36 and 37 of Gomez Grant, and upon successful abandonment would be entitled to the full portion of abandoned right-of-way described in Exhibit A and shown currently on the screen. Loblolly Bay Property Owners Association is the owner of a parcel A and the private street Southeast Loblolly Bay Drive of the plat of Loblolly Bay, and the private street Southeast Dock Street of plat number 2 Loblolly Bay. The Property Owners Association has provided a letter of no objection, and upon successful abandonment will be entitled to the south half of the portion of the proposed right-of-way abandonment shown on Exhibit B that abuts their property. And the Florida Inland Navigation District is the owner of all that portion land abutting the north side of the proposed right-of-way abandonment of Exhibit B. So upon completion of abandonment would be entitled to the north half of that portion of proposed right-of-way of Exhibit B. And Jonathan Taylor and Virginia Lovelace are the owners of Lot 63 of said plat number 2 Loblolly Bay abutting the proposed right-of-way abandonment. And they have provided a letter of no objection, and upon successful right-of-way abandonment, they would be entitled to that portion that abuts their property, the south half of which. Section 139.2 of the Martin County Code of Ordinances requires a privilege fee of abandonment and vacation of county property and roads. However, the board may waive the privilege fee required upon a showing of good cause. The petitioner has requested that the privilege fee be waived, and the petitioner will convey the property described in the attached Exhibit C, totaling 3.785 acres, to Martin County for right-of-way as a showing of good cause. And that's shown in red on the screen currently. The proposed right-of-way dedication that's shown on Exhibit C is directly north of and abutting the Martin County owned property that's known as Gomez Preserve Nature Trail. The proposed access is of similar condition into the same body of water being known as Peck Lake. As the proposed abandonment as the proposed abandonment and as such not causing further hardship of users thereof. The reasonableness of the distance between the proposed right-of-way dedication and the proposed abandonment is at the discretion of the board. The proposed right-of-way dedication depicted on Exhibit C is approximately 2,000 feet north of the right-of-way depicted on Exhibit A and 4,000 feet north of the right-of-way depicted on Exhibit B. So there's approximately 2,000 feet between each as shown. So moving to staff recommendation, staff recommends that 1, move that the board receive and file the agenda item summary and all of its attachments for the record as Exhibit 1. 2, move that the board adopt the resolution abandoning portions of unopened platted rights-of-way lying within Gomez Grant as described in Exhibits A and B, subject to the following conditions precedent. A, conveyance of the land described in Exhibit C to Martin County for right-of-way dedication, and B, proper publication of a notice of adoption of this resolution. 3, move that the board finds the conveyance of the parcel to Martin County by the petitioner as good cause and therefore agrees to waive the privilege fee. 4, move that the board agrees to grant an exception to the requirement that the petitioner receive the approval of a majority of electors participating in a referendum election, finding that the petitioner has conveyed to the county comparable land for access to the same body of water as the lands being abandoned. Said access is in such condition as not to work a hardship to the users thereof, and that the board finds the distance between the conveyed land and abandoned lands reasonable. And 5, move that the board authorize the chair to execute all documents necessary to complete the transaction. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
There's a lot in that recommendation. Does Commissioner Hurd?
Yeah, what's the land use on the Loblolly parcels?
I'm not sure on
How big are the parcels? How much upland is there on those parcels?
I don't know at this time. I don't have that information.
Is anybody?
Anybody from staff? No. Does the petitioner or the applicant have a presentation for?
I'm not sure they're present. The petitioner's present.
Hi, Doug Fitzwater with Lucido and Associates representing.
Cannot hear you at all.
Doug Fitzwater with Lucido and Associates representing Loblolly.
Do you have a presentation?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, we're going to rely on the presentation by staff, and we agree with staff recommendation of approval. With regards to the land use, the find piece currently has a land use of conservation, and the Loblolly pieces have an estate density 2 unit per acre land use.
And how much upland is on those two parcels?
I didn't bring that information with me. But
How big are the parcels? Do you know that?
not off the top of my head. I don't have that information.
Commissioner Smith?
Commissioner, were you done?
Yes.
Back in the staff recommendation, can you go through that, the 5 pieces of that again?
Okay. So one is for the board, number one is for the board to receive and file the agenda summary and all of its attachments for number 1.
Right.
And number 2 is move that the board adopt this resolution abandoning the portions that were identified in Exhibit A and B and subject to the following precedent, conveyance of the land in C, and then the proper publication.
Right.
So, as we were showing on the map earlier, it's the abandonment of the 2.
It's swapping basically one for the other.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 3?
Number 3 is move that the board find the conveyance of the parcel to Martin County by the petitioner as a good cause and therefore agrees to waive the privilege fee.
Number 4?
Cut off on the page, but move that the board agrees, this is the long one, that the board agrees to grant an exception to the requirement that the petitioner receive the approval of a majority of electors participating in a referendum election, finding.
Can you stop right there?
Okay.
So that's recommending we waive that requirement.
Yes, there is in the code, it can be waived if they do provide dedicated lands that meet the criteria and that
as you were explaining it, for whoever might be listening, I wasn't 100% sure that was as clear as maybe it should be.
Okay.
So effectively, if we approve staff's recommendation, it's waiving that provision that we don't have to go to referendum.
Correct.
Because we believe, or the board, or the majority of the board believe, that an adequate amount of land has been created, swapped, or done.
Correct.
As part of the process. And move that the chair execute all documents necessary to complete the transaction. And with that, I would move staff's recommendation.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
We do have a motion on the floor. We'll take public comment. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Is there anyone in the public that would wish to comment on this item? Sir? Okay, is there anybody on Zoom? No. Seeing no public comment, then we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to public hearing quasi judicial number 3, request abandonment of a portion of unopened right-of-way, conditioned upon the conveyance of other right-of-way lying within St. Lucie Inlet Farms, presented by Mr. Walker. And this is quasi-judicial. Do any of the commissioners have ex parte? Commissioner Jenkins.
I don't think I do, but if I do, they've been filed.
Commissioner Smith.
Do either? If I do, they're filed.
Commissioner Campy.
I don't believe I have any. If I have, they've been filed.
Commissioner Hearn.
I don't have any.
If any of mine have been filed, and does the applicant have returned receipts?
Not required.
Okay, and there's no interveners?
Correct.
And Mary Kay, would you like to swear in the witnesses?
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Walker, take it away.
Again, I'd like to submit a copy of the agenda item summary along with my work history and the copy of the publication affidavit. Good morning again, commissioners. This morning we are bringing forth the Kenner 5601 LLC, requesting that the board consider the abandonment of 16,640.77 square feet of unopened right-of-way lying within St. Lucie Inlet Farms. That's currently shown on the screen in blue and as labeled as Exhibit A. Said right-of-way being sought for abandonment is not, nor has it ever been, an open road. The petitioner is the owner of portions of tracks 7 and 8 abutting the subject unopened right-of-way. Again, Section 139.2 of the Martin County Code of Ordinances requires a privilege fee for abandonment and vacation of county property and roads. However, the board may waive the privilege fee required upon a showing of good cause. As part of the final site plan for Canner Lake, staff requested the petitioner set aside an additional 10 feet of right-of-way adjacent to the existing right-of-way lying east of the proposed site plan. This additional right-of-way will enhance the ability to access and maintain the ditch that connects the weir at the north end of the Fern Creek flow-through marsh and ultimately the South Fork of the St. Lucie River. The petitioner intends to dedicate the additional right-of-way to Martin County pursuant to the plat of Kenner Lake. However, the petitioner has requested the board consider this as a good cause for waiving the privilege fee associated with the abandonment. And that is shown in red on the screen and labeled as Exhibit B. For staff's recommendation is that 1, move that the board receive and file the agenda item summary and all of its attachments for the record as Exhibit 1. 2, move that the board adopt the resolution abandoning a portion of unopened right-of-way described in Exhibit A and lying within St. Lucie Inlet Farms, subject with the following conditions precedent. A, conveyance of property described in Exhibit B to Martin County, and B, proper publication of a notice of adoption of this resolution. 3, move that the board agrees to waive the privilege fee, finding good cause shown by the petitioner by conveyance of the parcel to Martin County. And 4, move that the board authorize the chair to execute all documents necessary to complete this transaction. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Does the applicant have a presentation?
Good morning. I'm Lee Dobbins, representing the applicant. I'm an attorney with the Dean Mead Law Firm. We do not have a presentation. I'm just here to answer any questions, should you have any. Thank you.
Anybody have questions for the applicant? Commissioner Smith.
Just a curiosity question. Why?
Why the abandonment?
Yeah.
This strip of property that we're looking to have abandoned is actually a part of the already approved site plan. My understanding is that Martin County doesn't claim that right of way. It was actually from a very old plat that was dedicating it to the public. As the attorney, I have to sign the title certificate on the plat swearing that all property is owned by the applicant. From a title company's perspective, and they are more conservative on these sorts of things, they take the position that it isn't really owned by the property owner until it has been formally abandoned. So in order for me to sign the title certificate on the plat that's coming to you as the next agenda item, I need to have it abandoned so that I can sign that title certificate in good faith.
I think for all the years that we've been through all the various changes we've done to the property, and there's been at least, I think, 4 maybe times we've dealt with this thing, I'm surprised this has never popped up as part of like something that was in the way of it all. But
Lee's involved now.
And
Got
so
his eyes crossed.
You get the lawyers involved.
I appreciate that. I'm sometimes I'm fascinated why this never popped in or out before, but I appreciate the explanation and thank you for that.
No problem.
Okay.
Motion to accept staff's recommendation.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Campy and seconded by Commissioner Smith, and we're going to take public comment. Is there anybody in the gallery that would wish to make public comment on this item, and is there anybody online? No. Seeing none. Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to departmental quasi-judicial number 1, request for approval of Canner Lake plat, presented by Matt Staley. And it is quasi-judicial, and we will take ex parte. Commissioner Hurd.
If I have any, they've been filed.
Commissioner Campy.
If I have any, they've been filed.
Commissioner Smith,
I have them, they're filed.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Have them, they're filed.
Same, if any, they've been filed. Does the applicant have return receipts?
And required.
And required. No interveners. And Mary Kay, would you like to swear in the witnesses?
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, Mr. Staley.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the
Morning.
record, Matt Staley, Senior Planner, Growth Management. Full copy of the agenda item and my work history has been provided. This is a request by Cantor 5601 LLC for approval of a plat consistent with the approved final site plan of a residential development consisting of 65 residential lots and 1 commercial parcel on 30.14 acres. I did want to make a correction. I had a typo in there on the 26.02 acres. That was previously just the residential portion of it. The subject site is located on the east side of South Cantor Highway, approximately 4,800 feet north of Southeast Salerno Road in Stewart. You can see here Ronnie's mobile home, RV park, and All Creatures Animal Hospital here, and the previously mentioned Fern Creek flow-through project. Included in this application is a request for a certificate of adequate public facilities exemption. Cantor 5601 Major Development Final Site Plan was approved by the Board of County Commissioners on August 21st, 2018, and an application for Cantor Lake revised final site plan was approved March 16, 2021 to address minor boundary adjustments that became apparent during preparation of the plat. During the review process, the owner agreed to dedicate a 10-foot wide strip of right-of-way so the county can continue to maintain the existing drainage canal along the northeast property line over here. Section 139.31 and 139.32 General Ordinances, Martin County Code, require that any conveyance of an interest in land to Martin County for any public purpose shall be accepted and approved by resolution by the Board of County Commissioners of Martin County. The local planning agency was not required to consider this plat application, and final action of this application was required by the Board of County Commissioners in a public meeting. So with that, move that the board receive and file the agenda item and all its attachments, including the staff report as Exhibit 1, and move that the board approve the plat for Cantor Lake, including the contract for construction of required improvements in infrastructure, and move that the board approve the resolution approving and accepting a special warranty deed dedicating 10 feet of right-of-way to maintain the existing drainage canal along the northeast side of the property from Cantor 5601 LLC, a Florida limited liability company. That concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith, do you have questions for staff?
Just, Madam Chair, pending public comment, I'd move approval.
Does the applicant wish to speak or make a presentation?
Good morning, Morris Crady here on behalf of the applicant, Senior Vice President with Lucido & Associates, and I processed the final site plan and the plat, worked with Lee, and Lee really had to get involved because of the plat. That's kind of why that right-of-way issue came up. But we're in agreement with staff recommendation of approval, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? Any public wishing to comment on this item? Anyone on Zoom? So we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, our next item is Departmental Quasi-Judicial Number 2, Request Plat Approval for Banyan Bay PUD Phase 2C, presented by Pete Walden. It's an quasi-judicial, Commissioner's ex parte. Commissioner Jenkins.
If I have any, they've been filed.
Commissioner Smith.
If I do, they're filed.
Commissioner Campy.
I don't believe I have any.
Commissioner Hurd.
If I have any, they've been filed.
If any, mine have been filed and just require return receipts and no interveners. Mary Kay, would you like to swear in the witnesses?
For the last.
This is truly the last time.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right. Okay.
You've sworn more people in than most people.
We wanted to get our money's worth today. Mr. Walden, you have your presentation.
Once again, Pete Walden with the Growth Management Department, and I'd like to start by submitting the full agenda item along with my work history into evidence. And Banyan Bay Max LLC requests approval of the Banyan Bay PUD Phase 2C plat. Banyan Bay is an existing approximate 251-acre residential PUD located between Southwest Canner Highway and the St. Lucie River in Stewart. Main access is provided at the signalized intersection of Southwest Canner Highway and Southeast Pomeroy Street. Included is a request for a certificate of public facilities exemption. The requested plat is for Phase 2C of the development and consists of 36 single-family lots and the associated infrastructure. The proposed plat is consistent with the approved final site plan for Phase 2C. Phase 2C final site plan was approved along with the revised master site plan and the 9th Amendment to the Banyan Bay PUD. The local planning agency was not required to consider this application, and development review staff have reviewed the plat application and find it in compliance with all applicable regulations, and therefore move that the board receive and file the agenda item and all of its attachments, including the staff report, as Exhibit 1, and move that the board approve the plat for Banyan Bay Phase 2C, including the contract for construction of required improvements and infrastructure. That concludes my presentation. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anybody have questions for staff? The applicant have a presentation.
No presentation, just we are in agreement with staff recommendation. Again, for the record, my name is Morris Crady here on behalf of the applicant. And I do want to say a parting farewell to Mary Kay as well, and thank her for forcing me to tell the truth, the whole truth, for all these years.
That was
Thank
good,
you.
Morris.
Yes, it was. It was excellent. Commissioner Smith.
Move staff's recommendation.
Right. Commissioner Campy?
Second with the comment, please.
Yes.
This Banyan Bay project, for folks that might not realize it, it is on Canner Highway across from Pomeroy, and for many years the project had, I guess many years ago the project had gotten started, but then it, through the recession and everything, had faded away and sat derelict for quite a long time after they had already, not this group, but another group had made some alterations and an impact along Canner Highway. And I remember driving by always thinking like this was somewhat of an eyesore. And when the project was reinvigorated and taken over and they started up, I've had the opportunity to drive through there and to be at a couple of their openings, and it is a quality project that was really well done. The area along Canner Highway with the lakes and the fountains and the guardhouse and the signage is very well done, and so I appreciate that this project has been sort of consistently moving along at a reasonable pace, filling in right along a main thoroughfare for homes, because we're all aware that the market is unbelievable. We're not looking for droves of people to come here, but to have quality projects that continue to enhance our tax base and our community, I'm pleased, and this is one of those standout projects for me, so thank you.
Great. Is there anybody in the gallery who would wish to make public comment? Anybody on Zoom? Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And we're moving to departmental number 1, Office of Management and Budget items which require board approval. Ms. Jennifer Manning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jennifer Manning, OMB Director. First of all, I want to mention for item number 2, we would like to withdraw that item until further notice. And I'll go on with the first item. Permission to apply for the American Rescue Plan. It's a humanities organization grant for the aging population. It's in the amount of $200,000, and it would provide recreational and educational relief for the aging population and homebound residents and residents in assisted live-in facilities. Third item is permission to accept the Federal Aviation Grant in the amount of $91,162. This is a coronavirus response grant that will address operations, personnel, cleaning, sanitization, janitorial services that was created through coronavirus, because of coronavirus, I should say. The fourth item is permission to accept a small outreach program grant for Salerno Road resurfacing, and it's from US 1 to Southeast Commerce. It's a 75% grant portion, which is $732,189. The total project cost is $1,091,439, and the county share is $359,250. And that is budgeted in FY22 road CIP. The fifth item is permission to accept another small outreach program grant from the FDOT, and this is also for Salerno Road, resurfacing of Canner South State Road 76, Canner Highway to Willoughby Boulevard. The amount of the grant is $657,931. The match is $42,690. The sixth item is permission to accept the State Aid Libraries FY 2021 grant funds, the amount of $67,033, and it will fund a full-time library position that has been in service since 2015. Also, it provides equipment for the ID lab upgrades, books and materials for library collection. The seventh item is permission to accept the shared use non-motorized Sun Trail Network grant, and this is a participation with FDOT for the feasibility study on Southeast Gomez Avenue. They are providing $100,000 for that study. And that concludes my items. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions?
Move approval of all the items except number 2.
Okay. Motion on the floor by Commissioner Hurd for approval of all the items with the exception of number 2, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And moving on to departmental number 2, contracts that meet the threshold for board approval, $1 million or greater. Christy Brotherton.
Good morning, Christy Brotherton, Purchasing Manager.
Morning.
Our first contract up for consideration today is our Geotechnical Engineering and Quality Control Services contract. This is a continuing services contract with a maximum not to exceed contract value of $3 million, with a maximum not to exceed contract term of 5 years, which is a 3-year term with 2 one-year renewal options. Staff is recommending that the board award the contract to the following 4 firms, which is Anderson Andre Consulting Engineer, Ardeman and Associates, GFA International, and Terracon Consultants. Staff is also recommending that the board authorize the county administrator or designee to execute any and all documents related to this request. Next, we have the engineering services related to the Martin County Airport Witham Fields contract. This is also a continuing services contract with a maximum not to exceed contract value of $3 million and a maximum not to exceed contract term of 5 years. Again, a 3-year term with 2 one-year renewal options. And staff is recommending that the board award the contract to the following 3 firms, which is Avcon, GAI Consultants, Hoyle Tanner and Associates, and staff is recommending that the board authorize the county administrator designee to execute any and all documents related to this request. And that concludes this item.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for staff?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And we have departmental number 3, Palomar informational presentation by Mike Houston. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. How's everyone doing today?
Good, how are you?
You're looking dapper. I know how much you like to
I
wear a suit.
Yeah. I do dress up on occasion. So. But I've got my field clothes, so after this,
As
it's
soon as
gonna
this is over.
be back to swamp boots and blue jeans. So this is just an informational presentation. Talk to you a little bit about Palomar. This is going to be pretty generic. It's just going to go through some kind of an introductory information to Palomar, and really just try and explain what it is and where it is and why we care about it, so on and so forth. So as an introduction, Palomar is about a 28,000 acre area. And it gets its name, Palomar, from Palm Beach and Martin County because it's a system that straddles the border between the two counties. And it's really a wetland-dominant system. Up to 90% of it would be considered to be wetland habitat. So it's unique in that sense in that it has so much wetland areas. But really also, when you talk about Palomar, it can get confusing because, somebody once asked me, okay, well, what is Palomar? Where is it? And if you ask different people will have different definitions. So, for instance, the red line that's on the map is the boundaries of the Palomar Water Control District. So they're a 298 district. They're a special taxing district that was formed to deal with drainage issues in the area. And so they have their boundary. But then there's an area known as Palm Beach Heights, which is kind of outlined in the blue. That area is much smaller. It's maybe 8,500 acres, and it was subdivided a long time ago into quarter, half, and acre size lots. That area has thousands of different owners, including the county and the state. We own a lot of land, and private interests own a lot of land, and it's all mixed in together. And then the Florida Forever program, which has been active in the Palomar area for over 20 years, they have their another definition as well. Their definition of Palomar actually goes all the way east of I-95 and the Turnpike and goes further south. And theirs is about 35,000 acres. So for my intents and purposes, for this presentation, I figured that there was about 28,000 acres, and that included the area that you can see here. That's the Hungryland Wildlife and Environmental Area. It includes the checkerboard area of subdivided lots in what's called Palm Beach Heights. It includes an area west of there, west of Beeline, the Culpeper Ranch property, and the Palomar East property that's east of Pratt Whitney Road. So one of the reasons that we care so much about Palomar is not just the unique nature of the wetlands and how much there is, it's the connectivity of it. Because it's kind of in the middle of everything when it comes to green spaces. If you go to the east, you can go all the way essentially to the Atlantic Ocean and the Intercoastal Waterway and find natural areas. So going from east to west, you have Hobe Sound National Wildlife Refuge, then you have Jonathan Dickinson State Park, you have the Cypress Creek properties, you have what we're calling Palomar here, then going further west, you have Corbett and Dupuis, and there's really kind of a ocean to lake greenway system, which is in itself is very unique. And then you have Lake Okeechobee, which is a very sensitive, important feature as well, obviously. But then if you go to the other side of Lake Okeechobee, you have a similar greenway system that goes all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. So in essence, you have a cross-state greenway system that goes all the way from the Atlantic Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico. which is a rare and unique thing. And in addition to that, you have some, in the Palmar area itself, you have some really high quality wetland systems that are similar to what you would find in the best areas of the Everglades. That in and of itself is unique, and great water quality. If you go out there, the water it's clear, there's no pollution sources that are entering it. It's very high quality wetland systems. But we also care about other things. We care about recreation here in Martin County. When the Parks and Rec Department did their master plan, one of the top things that citizens came back saying they wanted more of in Martin County was trail systems. People love their trail systems in Martin County. If you ever go out to Halpatioke Park on the weekend, you'll see hundreds of people out there on a given day. It's what makes Martin County unique, is that we have all these great areas for people to hike and bike and enjoy nature. And this has a potential to be a very good recreational system and connect to regional trail systems that cross the states. And we could provide hiking opportunities and biking opportunities. It's connected to Hungryland, so it could be used for hunting or equestrian use and wildlife observation. There's even, because there's a canal ditch system, you could provide fishing opportunities and paddling opportunities as well. So there's a lot of potential in this area to provide the citizens of Martin County and elsewhere with more recreational opportunities. It's also connected to the Loxahatchee River Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan. The eastern portions of Palmar are a part of Cypress Creek, which is one of the most important tributaries to the Loxahatchee River. It provides between a quarter and a third of all the water that goes into the river, all goes through Cypress Creek. And parts of Palmar are in the headwaters of Cypress Creek. And in fact, the SERP plan includes about 350 acres of that checkerboard area I had mentioned before for acquisition for the SERP project. So what is a little bit about the history of the area? So I mentioned Palm Beach Heights, and that was subdivided over a half of a century ago into those little acre, quarter acre, half acre lots. But the entire Palmar area was slated to be this really big development at one point in time that would have had something like 4 golf courses and entrances off of different highways from Canner Highway to Beeline, Pratt Whitney Road. There was a reservoir proposed, but it never came to be. And that was partially because of the efforts of Martin County, because it was really inconsistent with the nature of our county to have something of that nature. So the county became involved in Palmar back in the 1970s, and in the 1990s things started to switch. We started to take more of a role in trying to acquire and preserve Palmar at that time. So the county has a half of a century investment in Palmar and preserving it and securing it because of how unique it is to our county. And we've been pretty successful. We've done a lot of good in this area. You can see here's Hungryland Wildlife and Environmental Area. We've acquired a big chunk of that area, the Culpeper Ranch and the Palmar East property. And even within that Palm Beach Heights area, where there's a checkerboard of ownership, we've acquired about 3,500 acres of that area. But there's still a lot to go, especially in this area. There's something on the order of over 5,000 acres of land that are privately held. We spent close to $10 million acquiring land in that area, which was matched by our state partners. But it is important to note on this slide that the state is no longer acquiring land in Palmar. They haven't acquired any property in that area in the last 10 years. And, you know, we've talked about how important Palmar is, how unique the environmental characteristics are. but it is an area that is under threat. The areas that are remaining, the checkerboard area, you can't really manage that. You can't do prescribed fire. You can't remove exotic vegetation. You can't really do anything with it because we just have little parcels here and there throughout the system. And there's also the threat of vehicles that are increasingly harming the wetland systems that are out there. And you can see from this picture all the ATV, swamp buggy, off-road vehicle tracks in some of the nicer wetland areas out there. So it is an area that is under threat and something for the commission to consider. So at this point, we just wanted to reiterate what the goals of the county have been in the area. And this is pretty generic. You know, the county in the past has talked about that we want to protect the lands that have already been acquired. We want to acquire more lots within the Palm Beach Heights area, that checkerboard area. And we really want to prevent changes to the drainage patterns that would be detrimental to the environmental values. So we don't want to see drainage. We don't want to see it turned into, you know, an upland type of ecosystem. So those are what the current county goals are for Palmar. And for now, that's pretty much what we've got.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Does anyone have questions or comments? Commissioner Campy.
Mr. Houston, thank you. That was an excellent presentation. And obviously, you're well versed on this. I know you live it and breathe it, so I appreciate it very much. Some of my colleagues have been at this for a long time, longer than I, and I know that they sit on, I'm sure Commissioner Jenkins is currently sitting on the Palmar board. Commissioner Hurd has for a long time. I'm assuming Commissioner Smith has as well. And one of the big frustrations was that checkerboard, that grid pattern where all of those individual privately held parcels are. And I know it would cost a fortune just to try to buy everyone out of them, but there's not a lot of development opportunity. I know there's always a threat, but it's not like people can start, in my knowledge, that there's not a lot of ability to do that. Do we have the ability or property that you ever contemplate like land swapping, where taking parcels that are right within that area and then trading out to an area that the county might have, or a parcel that we might be able to acquire more readily than trying to, because you're negotiating with hundreds of individual landowners in this case, right? People have just bought these when they were available and don't really have any plan, but they're also not working collaboratively, correct? They're not an organized body that we could negotiate with. While you were making your presentation, I just couldn't help but thinking if there was an option of some parcels or property acreage that we own somewhere else, or that we could collaborate with Palm Beach County or the state and start actually swapping out these parcels. Even if you personally, since you have such a knowledge with the team, started buying them in blocks so you could work your way, even if you couldn't do it all. I know that there was some talk a couple of years ago about swapping bigger portions, like let's give up the development rights and allow people to do it in this section if we could do it somewhere else. So I guess my suggestion would be taking that same concept, but taking the trading of land from here to there out of the environmentally sensitive area completely, and having it somewhere else, where if I was a individual landowner and I had 2 or 3 acres, what's the minimum that someone owns?
Quarter.
A quarter. All right. So if I had a couple of acres that I purchased just because I thought maybe, like you said, originally there was a vision that it was going to be something. And we've done very well holding it off from being a big multi-golf course city. So I think people might be interested in getting something back on their initial investment versus just having it like, the Brooklyn Bridge in Arizona, where it means nothing to them. Has that ever been contemplated?
There has been proposals made by some of the landowners out there. I would say to present, the board direction has been just for land acquisition. The board has never considered a land swap proposal or anything else of that nature. So that would be up to the board's discretion, I think, to consider or approve something along those lines.
Okay, Commissioner Smith.
So for as long as I've been sitting here, that kind of notion has been proffered. I absolutely have zero interest in swapping, trading, any of it. I think that was the goal by some in the past that owned either physically owned property or certainly had rights or proxies to a lot of the lots that are out there that were bought in the 20s or the 30s. My focus and has been and will continue to be, how do we acquire the whole thing, and how do we position ourselves to make sure that what is out there is protected, both from the habitat piece of it, but also to the connections and the movement of water through all of our southern western to eastern portions of the county. It's incredibly complicated. But I think we need to stay the course and stay right where we're at and work with our state partners and put ourselves in a position. And, you know, when the Guardians came forward a couple of weeks ago, and again, we talked about that again this morning, you know, the idea to put ourselves financially in a position to match money with the state and go after a much larger acquisition in a much more aggressive way, I think is where we should go. And I hope that's what we continue to do. Thank you.
Commissioner Jenkins.
I appreciate and would like to encourage more comments, because I sit on that board, and it's honestly, it's very confusing. I'm sure Commissioner Hurd can attest to. And I've been trying to get a good handle on, I represent the board, I need to kind of understand where you're coming from. So, Commissioner Smith, I appreciate your comment, that because I was a little puzzled, because I did see that land swap thing, and you know, and so anyway, that helps. Our next board meeting actually is a field trip. Actually, it's not. It's a workshop where we're actually going to take a tour of the property. Mr. Houston and myself actually got the sheriff to fly us over it. I mean, I've lived here all my life, but unless you understand the geographics of it, it's really kind of hard to process. So I did that, which was helpful, but I think actually going on the ground, I'm looking forward to that next weekend. So the other issue, that the acquisition issue, and correct me if I'm wrong, John and Mike, is we're being outbid for acquisitions because the property is 2 feet underwater, so obviously it's never going to appraise for anything. But at the same time, we're held to we can't pay more than appraised value, correct? So and we do have some money for acquisition left, from what I understand, but we're not competitive. I think environmentally it has much greater value than to us than anybody else. So I just kind of wanted to try to get the board's a little idea of where we want to go, so I can represent the board better when I'm in a meeting.
And certainly with the county's limited resources, the focused, certainly with the limited nature of the county resources, when you're talking about what county dollars we have, the focused approach that you mentioned, Commissioner Campy, makes some sense. There are certainly portions of it that are more environmentally sensitive than others, with the goal of being to protect the entire area, but from a realistic sense, where strategically we can work to focus our efforts, there are positives to that.
Okay, Commissioner Smith.
I want to follow up on Harold's thoughts just a little bit. I think one of the hard things for anybody to understand, unless you have flown over or unless you physically have been out there, the work that Mike has done and others have done in the areas that we've already acquired over the last 20 years is really phenomenal. I mean, to go and see how quickly things have transformed back to kind of where they would have been 100 years ago is remarkable. And the ability to once and for all resolve this whole thing. I mean, one of the strategies years ago was that, well, gee, if we took our land and swapped it with the other guy's land, he could take what is known to as the chimney parcel, which is kind of more upland, drier area up to the northwest corner, and turn that into a big old development. And I have no want to see that happen, or I have no incentive to see that happen for any reason. And so, again, my focus, even with our limited resources, again, I got to go back to what the Guardians presented to us. What I've shared with them when I met with them on a much larger land acquisition program, Palomar has got to be part of that for me, because that will put us, I think, in a financial position to be able to go to the state and talk to them about matching resources or funds, to be able to go to the individual that has acquired a significant amount of land and talk about acquisition versus what's going on out there currently. So that's still my hope, and I hope we don't send the wrong message that we're open to negotiation. I am not, but others may be, and I just think we need to stay that course and be focused on the whole thing to finish out what we started back in the 70s.
Just, if you give me a second to respond.
Yes, and then Commissioner Hurd.
But we're still in, Ms. Woods, we're challenged by a piece of property that is 2 feet underwater that has no appraised value or very little, like $900, that somebody's willing to pay $10,000 for, or $5,000, I don't know what they're buying it out there, for the rights to go hunt and run around on your four-wheeler. So what is the legal inhibiting fact of us paying over appraised value?
I don't know that there is generally, there's no prohibition against paying over appraised value. The more complicated question would be what actually is the appraised value, because generally speaking, appraised value is what a willing seller will sell for to a willing buyer, all things being appraised. So even though it may seem as if it has no value, if people are willing to pay for it, then that can set an appraised value. And I'm talking very broadly. I'm not a real estate appraisal person. I mean, I'm not certified, but that can be one thing. There isn't any statutory prohibition paying above appraised value. As a policy, what we do is we get an appraisal and we try to acquire property based on appraisals. Sometimes we'll get a second appraisal or even a third to try to come to an agreement. So I'm speaking broadly. The Palomar issue, I don't know if we've gotten any appraisals in a while.
That sounds like a conversation, because that's a little bit different than what you and I and John have been talking about. So maybe that's something that we need to get together and talk about. So,
and the nature of a lot of these acquisitions, it's not somebody coming forward with 100 acres.
Right.
It's somebody that owns one of these tiny parcels. Right. And at this point, we can only pay a certain amount above what the appraised value is. But at the board's discretion, if the board decided that it's worthy enough to pay more than what we're currently allowed to, the board could then say you can pay such and such over what the appraised value is.
well, it sure seems like we need to come back after we do some research on that to figure out what type of parameters this board's willing to set for acquisition out there, right?
And we can certainly set up a land acquisition specific agenda item for you to just focus on the land acquisition component of
right.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, I've been a student of Palomar's history for just the recent past. I've been studying these and learning about Palomar for the last 20 years, but certainly its history has been long before that, and it's been messy ever since I've been learning about it, and it will continue to be messy, but I completely concur with Commissioner Smith. Stay the course. This is inarguably the finest ecosystem in the Everglades outside of the park. Out of all the property that's in the greater Everglades ecosystem, these parcels are the remaining remnants that are of most value to us environmentally. So it's people in the 20 years that I've been studying this, people have been trying to develop Palomar every day for the last 20 years, and I'm sure they've been trying to develop for the 50 years before that. But it's an area that should not be. It's the headwaters of the Loxahatchee, and it provides critical habitat for wildlife throughout the Everglades system. So, my strong feeling is that we just keep up the good fight, and there will be a way forward. I don't know when it will be, and I don't know where it will be, but I'm confident that there will be a way forward. Certainly, the everything that we can do in order to stop developing this land is important to do.
I can't understate this off-road vehicle issue, that if you have thousands of people using off-road vehicles in an area that size, it will cease to have the environmental value that it does. It will become a mud hole.
That's an enforcement issue.
It's hard to enforce when it's that checkerboard pattern like that. When it's just an individual lot here and an individual lot there, like how do you can't, it'd be very, very difficult to enforce off-road vehicle rules or regulations out there.
Ms. Woods.
Yeah, I just, to kind of clarify what was said before, there's a very large difference between what the statutes, Florida law restricts you from doing, and I think what Mr. Houston is mentioning was board policy, board direction as to what we would pay. So if the board going forward wanted to change in how Palomar acquisition is done, that would be up to the discretion of the board. And I just want to, that's the difference here. It's not state law, it's board policy. I know you've had agenda items over the years about with strategies as to how this would be, but again, that's up to the five of you all to formulate that policy.
And we were dealing with the Water Management District as well, which I think that was more their.
Yes, yeah, it may have been theirs as well, but that was quite a few years ago, I believe. Thanks.
And just while we're on that, on acquisition, it's my understanding, and I don't have a long history with this, that we have a pot of money that, a prior board set aside that is sitting there to acquire land. And that has a particular dollar amount, but we're not being successful. That money that was earmarked for this, we're not being successful because we can't compete in the market. So to me, that money it's losing its value. We're not able to buy. So if we're going to continue to have that pot of money sitting there, then we're going to have to make some kind of changes to how we acquire land. Otherwise, it doesn't make good sense to have that pot of money sitting. So I think we do need to look at how, we're appraising. And I'm not an appraiser, but it should be comparable to what the appraised value should be comparable to what the surrounding property is selling for, and nor have I looked into that. But what you're saying is that people are paying more for those lots. So if we haven't did some kind of analysis, then maybe that's something that should come back and see who's paying what, and can we make better use of the money that was allocated in the past. That's my 2 cents, and I can't remember who had their line on first. Commissioner Jenkins.
Staying the course may have been, in my mind, and I've been sitting on that wood for 2.5 years now, in the past may have been an acceptable stance that we should have taken, but right now that property is being marketed pretty heavy. And right now, like Mike said, in a prime picture of that that was on our PowerPoint of all the tracks of the swamp buggies and four-wheelers and everything else go, And that doesn't do it justice. I mean, when we flew over, there is literally some wet areas there that are now a mud hole. That I'm sure it'll come back, but I think there is a sense of a little bit of an urgency that we begin to do something, because I don't think staying the course at this point is the right way. And again, this is why I'm here, so you can convince me otherwise if I'm off and going. But I do, just viewing the property, do feel a sense of urgency, especially when I hear, I don't know, Mike or John was telling me about a parking lot that's off of Pratt. Okay. Well, I don't know exactly where it is, that is now full on the weekends of trucks and trailers that have offloaded their side-by-sides and their four-wheelers and their whatever, so.
I think that's where the sheriff set up a substation, actually.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. So, things are becoming worse, and so we do need to develop a strategy of acquisition and/or figure out how to get somebody to enforce something or something. We got to do something. So, that's it.
I realize it's a difficult environment to enforce, but I understand staff is doing. Is there anything that the board could do to encourage, enhance, ask for more enforcement?
So some enforcement work is being done by the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission because several of the access points to get into that area, you have to go through Hungryland to get there, and FWC is not allowing access through Hungryland. There's one area, it's called Gate 1. It's on the northeast portion of Hungryland, where it's been shown that there's an easement for landowners. So FWC is allowing access through that point. And a lot of the issues that are occurring are coming from that access. So I think supporting FWC, we also recently, there was a board item for a memorandum of understanding for the Jupiter Indian Town grade, the part that goes through Hungryland, that gives FWC the right to enforce and maintain the grade in Hungryland. So those are some of the steps that could, that are certainly helpful. But, I'd have to give it some thought beyond that, like what else we could do to help protect that area. Because it is complicated and, people have certain rights, I guess is what I would say.
John Mayle, Ecosystem Division. Tom Reiner is here today. He's the regional director for the FWC, and he could address, if you like, the enforcement challenges. It's up to you.
Please.
I think that would be helpful. Is that an old light? New light?
I knew, but that's right.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate it. I just, I wasn't intending to speak today. I did want to come and support Mike. I just want to say I'm very grateful for the partnership that we have with Martin County. FWC we are a manager. We don't really own the Hungryland. It's largely TIF, State Lands, South Florida Water Management District, some co-owned with the county. So we have a lease to do the management, and we worked with your county attorneys to come up with the MOU that you passed a while back concerning the grade, and that was basically just codifying what we already had a handshake agreement and verbal agreement on, that where the grade exists within Hungryland, that we're managing it and managing access, and we manage it as a hiking, biking, equestrian only trail. So again, really thankful for the work with the attorneys, and very grateful to John and Mike and their whole team for the partnership there. Enforcement, huge issue. We only have so many officers, and they can't sit and babysit every single entrance, and people make their own entrances coming in from outside our managed property, just driving in. The Gate 1, the parking lot you're talking about, is a Hungryland parking lot. It's in the 9 Gems. It's for equestrian trailers, and equestrians show up, and there's no place to park because private landowners are parking there, parking their trucks and their trailers and offloading their swamp buggies, ATVs, UTVs, and then using a permit that admittedly we have provided landowners to use Gate 1 to drive to their property. We're in the process of trying to rein that in because that's not the intent of that permit. The Palmar Water Control District has said that that easement at Gate 1 that is part of the works of the district is being maintained for their purposes for vehicular access. And so because those landowners that are in that part of that checkerboard have to actually go through property that's owned by the state, and that Gate 1 is not a designated entrance. It is, the general public is not allowed through that gate. We issue them a permit to go through that gate, and the permit specifically says you must travel in a continuous fashion from this gate to the edge of the property, and dogs must be caged, guns must be stowed, and you must abide by all of the rules. This is only allowing you to drive from point A to point B. Once you get to point B, you're on your own, but what happens is it's being marketed as hundreds of miles of trails and your own private hunting area, and people are buying a quarter-acre lot and then expecting access to everything. We had previously been issuing keys to really try to help on that enforcement side, as you mentioned, but that became intractable because of so many people. We had one gentleman who purchased a half-acre come in and then quit claim it to 15 of his friends. So all 16 of them wanted their own permit and their own keys, and we could not keep up with, as they started to figure that kind of system out, we couldn't keep up with that. So what we did was we just removed the lock and keep the gate closed, and now part of the permit is you must close the gate behind you, but it's unlocked. And there's a sign that says this is for authorized use only or permitted access. So it gives our officers the ability, if they see someone coming out, they say, hey, where's your permit? No permit? Well, here, press hard, 3 copies, here's your ticket, because that's not a legal access point. But what we find is there are offshoots from that road leading into our property. So people are using it to access lands that are owned by the county and the state for that kind of access. So it's tough. And again, we only have so many officers that can only be out there a certain amount of time. And we certainly appreciate the partnership with the county. But it is an issue of concern for us, and so I'd be very excited, be very supportive if the board wanted to send a letter or direct John and his staff to raise the issue with Division of State Lands and the Florida Forever. Say, hey, because Hungrylands admittedly has fallen down the list on priority areas. Let's get it back up to the top. I'm very supportive of that. Again, FWC is not an acquisition agency. We don't have funds for that. That's Division of State Lands, DEP. But as partners with them, we are going to be very supportive of anything we can do to try to protect some of those sensitive lands out there. And if you have any questions for me as a representative of the agency, I'm happy to take.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Without question, everything we should, could, and would be doing, Tom, we should be doing. I think it raises that level of importance. I think that it is that big enough of a deal. When I mean stay the course, Harold, it's not as if what we're currently doing is the right answer, but my stay the course is not deviating in terms of the acquisition of all of Palmar. However we get there, whatever that tool, whatever that mechanism is to get there, is what I mean by that's my course. Trading, swapping, I have no interest in deviating off that course. To Tom's thing, by all means, I'll move that we send a letter to who do you want it to go to? Division of State Lands? Well, to whoever, to the multiple agencies, whether it's Florida Forever, Division of State Lands, the governor's office.
Send it to ARC.
I'm sorry?
To ARC? To our committee?
To ARC, which is the Acquisition Resource Council, that this is one of our top priorities in the county to address all of the issues. There are some other things that we haven't really talked about today, but there are other enforcement issues that we are trying to look into. I know Ruth is trying to work on some background work that I would encourage whatever we need to do legal, and not that you haven't held her back, but give her full reign to do what she needs to do, because that's the only way we're going to make progress relative to the end goal. And I just encourage everybody to continue to do what we're doing. And Tom, if you have any other avenues of suggestion, not that you wouldn't tell us, but please encourage us to, if it's a public thing we need to do, tell us publicly, and we'll certainly do that. So today I would certainly move that we write a letter to the various agencies that Tom has highlighted and John and Mike have highlighted, stressing the importance of enforcement with additional action as needed to stop certainly what's currently going on. And then as we move forward, whatever other acquisition discussions as an agenda item, as Madam Chair asked or suggested and Harold suggested, I'd be more than happy to have that as well.
Second.
And also, Commissioner Smith, the letters should also ask the agencies to prioritize acquisitions.
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
I agree. So we're clear on the direction of the letter, and motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So that was for the letter. Any additional direction?
I think we talked about maybe developing a policy for the county for acquisition. Well, I struggled with that. Anyway, better than what we have now. We need to be able to do that. So I think they were going to be, and wasn't there something else? There's two things.
Well, that an acquisition policy, a funding strategy, certainly, because there's not enough money with what's sitting in the bank to do much of anything.
Well, we got a little bit to start with. So.
Yeah, clear.
Well, it sounds like an agenda item, laying those things out
But there
would be.
was two things we were talking about they were going to come back with. Anyway.
I think the acquisition strategy, again, that money is becoming less valuable sitting there. So was that a motion for bringing back an item on acquisition strategy?
Got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Funding part of that as well?
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the motion. Can the clerk read it back?
So.
Can the clerk read it back, please?
To bring back a acquisition policy and a funding policy.
Much clearer now. Thank you.
Great. So now have forgotten who seconded it. Okay, Commissioner Smith. So we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jenkins, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for the presentation. We appreciate it. Okay, well, that looks like it completes our regular agenda for today. And we will go ahead and take end of the day public comment. Seeing no one in the room for public comment. Is there anybody on Zoom? And, okay, any commissioner comment? Commissioner Jenkins, Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Campy?
Yes, I think it bears repeating for those people that might not have been watching this morning that we are bidding adieu to our dutiful clerk, Mary Kay Vitale. After 30 years with the county and the clerk's office, and after nearly 800 commission meetings, this is her last moments. And thank you so much for everything that you've done.
And we wish you well. Commissioner Hearn.
A biento.
Thanks. Ms. Krista? Ms. Woods? Okay, our upcoming Board of County Commission meetings are May 11th and 25th. And with that, we are adjourned.